Hello, everyone. Welcome to the new and improved Real Talk strategy. We got a new name, our official name, so we got a new overlay. I'll put in scene transitions eventually, but this is good enough, I think. Basically, I made this morning, and I was like, it's good enough. So hopefully you guys think it's good enough. We got a couple things to talk about. More than a couple things. So if you saw the tweet or the Discord message, you know what's generally going to be up. But as always, we kind of just follow whatever, the road takes us, wherever the road takes us. So that's what's going to happen here. But we do have StarCraft 2 topics to talk about first, and then we'll branch off into more generalized esports. And the first StarCraft 2 topic that I wanted to bring up is apparently our unofficial patch notes, which is why patch is in quotes. So, yeah, this is fun. This is fun. So if you all were playing StarCraft yesterday, as I was, you might have noticed that, or 2 days ago, something like that, that there was a patch. I actually got booted off of StarCraft. I was like, this has never happened before. And it patched. And then initially people were saying it just fixed a couple of bugs or like map stuff or something like that. But then, of course, Ali, who big brain deep dive into the coding, was like, well, no, it changed stuff. So if you guys missed it, here's the Reddit thread. Here's the updates. StarCraft 2 was updated. It had raised extended thermal lance range from 2 to 3, removed 0.5 offset of min scan range for upgraded Colossus, and it broke the interference matrix impact animation, I assume is what that meant. So now that's... aren't there two things that are missing their impact animation?
Well, that's also not totally accurate. Ali put a follow-up tweet where he said that all those changes were made, but they're not being made in... Here, I'll link the tweet.
I got the tweet and the screen cap from Discord here.
Okay.
Addendum broke interference matrix impact sound.
But then he quote tweeted that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's saying these are not the games, like these changes are present in the editor or present in the game, but they're not in the games you're playing. So I'm not quite sure what that means. It's like it's in customs, but no, I guess it's not in ladder and customs, but this is even weirder than it normally would be.
Yeah, so they stayed in the client and editor, but they didn't push it to ladder customs because someone noticed and like frantically ran after the button to press to stop it, and it was like a action movie where there's always just 1 second left on the buzzer. And they're like, nailed it. Got it.
I think what I just don't understand is like how these things keep happening. I actually understand some of these like changes or whatever, like the impact stuff. It's like if you look at the little difference in the code that was made that Ollie tweeted as well, it's like, someone changed the name of something and now it's broken. Okay, like I get it. Maybe for whatever reason someone was touching that and it breaks. But like changing the range on the extended thermal lance, I'm just like, what was someone trying to do there? And why did this get pushed at all? Like, I don't understand how this stuff is happening, is my point.
Is this like...
Well, this feels like, to me, this feels like just more input from the Balance Council, no?
Yeah, this is Zerg Cabal.
Yeah, there we go. Well,
the Zerg Cabal, as we always do, getting our hands into a matchup that doesn't affect us.
What extra range? I mean, that would mean
it increased the range.
Hydras. So yeah, it
increased the range.
The Zerg Cabal felt bad about the significant Hydra buff that has drastically changed all of the matchups, obviously,
well, no.
And they gave us.
Here's the thing, actually.
Update.
How many professional Zergs play Protoss as their off race? Right,
so
we
many.
got Raynor, we got Scarlet.
Those are basically the only two we need,
Yeah, there we go.
Exactly. We all know that Scarlet's head of the Balance Council.
I mean, Dark has beaten he beat Rex in a tournament with it, and at one point he was down like 60 supply in the game, and he was just like, I've heard this High Templar Storm is pretty good. And Rex was like, oh yeah, we'll see about that. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, damn, High Templar Storm got hands.
Well, so apparently this is really a non-issue, which is great. But there is a Discord screen cap presented by a nice username where I don't know enough, but it's kind of funny reading this. I guess I'll hold on. I'll change. There we go. So you can read all of it. Though maybe they rolled it back. Classic fuck up by Blizzard. Fortunately, in their favor. A team/person that currently takes care of StarCraft 2 maintenance is not aware that ladder and co-op pulls data from Online Depot, not from CASC. And they did update only the CASC data. So I don't know what that really means, but it sounds like it's actually hilariously incompetence working in their favor, is what it sounds like. Like there's two different things that they pull from to get to impact the ladder versus other shit. And then the person who like pushed this patch is just like, well, I'll push this one, which thankfully was fine.
Does that mean that this was a campaign patch then? Effectively?
That's a good question.
Like, I'm struggling to understand
or a co-op patch.
Well, it says co-op pulls is like from the same kind of area as ladder and custom.
But were they trying to just do co-op and they were like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing?
Maybe.
What? Okay, this is not trying to be like multiplayer elitist or anything, but who is asking for these co-op balance patches and who's actually like the one that's reading the feedback and being like, yes, these are the changes that are needed and stuff? Who is doing that at Blizzard? Because my understanding was that the entire development team is literally gone for StarCraft 2, like development for future stuff. So is there someone actually maintaining things for co-op and stuff, or trying to?
And their take on co-op is that Colossus universally, well, only like one co-op commander has extended thermal lance for their Colossus.
Yeah, and that's the weakest one. It's about damn time. Open your eyes, people.
No, so Hearthstone, right? We assume he's part of the Balance Council, and he plays what is it? Co-op whatever with Sal every week. So clearly, he's just leveraging his Balance Council powers to get this changed so he can have more fun with Sal every week.
Clearly, I thought the fun was when they lose, though. So this is counterintuitive.
Well, no, that's fun for the viewers.
Oh, okay, all right.
It could unironically be CTG, who is like the co-op goat.
Yeah.
I've seen him on our StarCraft, and I was like, oh yeah, this guy, like, he really knows his stuff, and I'm seeing him in Sal's stream, and he's talking about co-op, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like he's like, he's like a bit of a co-op fan. And then I took a look at his YouTube, and he has like every co-op commander, like he's like, here's how to play it like perfectly. And each of his videos have so many views, and I'm just like,
oh really?
Let's
is
go.
He the guy that had it was like the $400 challenge that he put to Sal and Hearthstone, where if they lost it, like it halved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, he is actually, well, the last time I was checking out his videos was probably years ago. So that's very fair. But, they were getting like sub 100 views, I think, maybe upwards of 200 and less. So if he's actually, if he finally gained the casual market, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, and I think he's at like, let me see this. I think it's all like the tutorial ones, but I'm pretty sure some of the tutorial ones have like quite a few views.
I mean, we don't have to check.
Did I gaslight myself?
You might have. And I don't mean to be like, oh, that's awesome. And then you're like, oh, just kidding. It is only like 100 views. And I'm just like,
oh, no, it is. Yeah. His, he has one that's got 49K views. One that's got 29K, 21K. It's all the tutorial ones.
Sure.
All the tutorial videos are juiced.
But you can do a lot of tutorial videos with co-op, because again, you could just do like all types of combinations. He does solos of the mutations as well, which I'm sure people are still interested in. No, that's awesome, because I think we all know that co-op is it's not most of StarCraft player base, but it's a majority of it.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Majority and most are the same thing. It's a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't going to call it out. It's okay. I tried to like cut you off because I could see. Yeah, I saw you like driving to a cliff, and I tried to like tackle the car. But I'm a person, and cars are bigger than me.
My bad. Anyways. Okay, so pretty much a non-issue. That's good stuff then. That Blizzard's miscommunication and general,
I guess
whatever they're doing.
The only other thought is,
it's just working in our favor for once. But go on.
I guess like the only other thought is whether there's potentially another balance patch in the works, and something got copied over, or this is kind of a hint that that's happening.
Possibly.
Obviously, you would expect them to be in like different repos and.
Let's pretend for a moment that it is a balance change and this is intended by the council, because let's just go on a small short journey. Right now, a lot of Protoss players are struggling a lot with PvT, and it's not the end game, not even like later stages of the mid game. It's getting to the like through the mid game. It's that 3-1-1 timing that hits around 7 minutes. You know, sometimes you can cut some stuff, hit it 6 minutes. Sometimes you hit it a little bit later. Protoss are struggling a little bit in that matchup. Colossus are a pretty fundamental part of that matchup, especially getting into the mid game. Now, is extended thermal lance going to necessarily solve problems? Unclear, because like a lot of Raven-based timings are really strong, but like it definitely could give a little bit of stabilization. And then if we think about PVZ, right now, Colossus they have a place, but I don't feel like they require too much of a dedicated response in terms of like building corruptors. Like you get Vipers, but either you have the Vipers or you don't. And if you have the Vipers, it doesn't matter really what the range of the Colossus is. It's a little bit safer, a little bit with +1 range. But I don't know that it would necessarily be game-breaking. And I'm saying this as a Zerg. Before everyone was like, oh my God, he's such a Protoss. And like everyone just, you know, loses their minds on me for being anti-Zerg because I am, yeah. All I'm saying is like it would be interesting to see. So if it was a balance patch, I don't know. What do you guys think on the change?
I mean,
go ahead. Nope, you first.
I guess going back to the PVT thing, extended thermal lance is not often done by the time a lot of those pushes happen. Maybe you can change the openers around a little bit, but I'm not sure that is something that gets addressed, right? Like if you say, yeah, 1 additional range, maybe the Colossus can fight better. That's not something. I don't think the timings. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't think the timings work out well. That it might keeps you alive after that. But yeah, feardragon wants to say something.
I'm gonna interject and say, I've looked at the code and
looked at the code.
Oh,
here's the skinny of like the easiest way I can explain this. So you would imagine there might be like some variable in the code or whatever for these changes that's like, I'm gonna change this number 2 to 3 because that's what the extended thermal lance does.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, this is like this is like the way that this change from 2 to 3 looks like it happened is it looks like there were lines that basically specified make this extended thermal lance upgrade change the thing by 2 to 2 or by 2, and they just got deleted. So it wasn't like someone inserted in code and was like set it to like change this 2 to 3. It's like something got deleted and then it reverted back to some other value, which makes me think maybe they could very well
not
be
intended.
Intentional.
100% it was not intended.
But that's like one of those things that I look at. I'm like, that could be on it. That seems like something.
Yeah.
Given the fact that they also broke the Raven animations and stuff by like name changing stuff, to me it looks like someone saw something and was like, "Oh, we don't need this block anymore. Like this is just redundant, unnecessary, or something." And they cleaned up the wrong thing and didn't realize that it was going to potentially break stuff.
Right.
Yes, that is definitely what it is, because Colossus used to be base 6 range, extended thermal lance +3.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now they are base 7 range, extended thermal lance +2. Yep. So that is for sure what happened. That's 100% what it was. I'm ready to die on that hill. That's got to be what it was. There's no way.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, just to talk about like balance, you know, if you just wanted to go that direction, I was just going to say that I don't think Colossus is a fun enough unit to focus on personally. I've had that take since 2010. I think it's fine. And then, the extended thermal lance being done for the first push is generally not the problem. And then having an extra range for like multitasking, you know, when you have to split up your Colossus and split up your army, I don't think it's going to help all that much either. So, there might be a legitimate problem with PVT, but you know, kind of when this topic comes around about like how Protoss is doing, there's always those people that bring up, well, honestly, Protoss aren't playing very well, you know, and they'll point to Hero being the best Protoss in the world, but then doing really stupid shit, like blinking in when they absolutely shouldn't.
Yeah. And
you're just like, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of fair. Yeah, I'm kind of getting that again, because like people will comment on my YouTube when I cast Max Packs. And literally, I got this comment yesterday, and it's like, I just tuned in to see the Protoss lose, you know, and then I was right. You know, spoiler alerts, Max Pack lost. And I was like, yeah, but doesn't it hurt his chances if he literally, every time he goes Twilight Council, always goes 4-gate blink? So you literally see a Twilight Council and you know it's 4-gate blink? Isn't that a bad thing?
No.
responded.
It's real-time strategy. Strategy is the last thing in the list. So it's about real and time. So he's making a real Twilight Council at a good time. So the strategy part is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you can read him like a book. He's the best player in the world, so he just should be winning.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to prove that. That seems to be exactly what he's trying to prove.
And to be honest, he's actually like I'm saying that in like a really derisive tone. I'm a huge Max Pack stan, and he's almost doing it on a consistent basis against like super top tier Terrans. He is. Yes, that's that. So there's a lot of players out there, and I would say Hero Marine is probably the best example of one who was really well known for being like one-dimensional, and then suddenly he just wasn't, and he became one of the most strategically diverse players. And that was when he went from being like not middling results, still good, still impressive, to a top 4 in IAM Katowice.
Yeah.
Pretty. It tells you that strategy maybe matters in a strategy game. So like, I think that's going to be the next evolution for Max Packs. That's a little bit of like an offshoot, but it's a really valid point, and it's just supporting what you're saying, which is that there's a lot of Protoss players out there right now that there's some things could be tightened up, maybe a little bit, just a wee bit.
I think so. I'm totally on board also just like, talking about if they are actually underpowered at the top level. Because I think that we've had the discussion before, I think multiple times throughout the years. And in my opinion, has always been that Protoss is very hard to balance to get that skill cap as high as necessary for the winning the championships, but then not to make them, literally the only race on the European Open Cups. So
would you guys want to see a balance patch so soon after we just had like the big Katowice balance patch?
Maybe some small adjustments, not a big one. Definitely not a big one.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind like a singular change, I wouldn't mind something like really minor to try and tweak something. The problem is it is tough to know when something is like okay, or if it's just certain things, certain players are making mistakes, like yeah,
the meta's developing.
Exactly. I will say, and this is kind of funny, I will say PvP has gone from being one of the most dynamic matchups to being like the shittiest, most boring matchup. It feels like okay, and look at this. We're at minute 7 and they both have 3 bases and they both have 15 blink stalkers. Is he going to be able to get an advantage? Oh, he's got 1 more blink stalker. They're both microing well. We'll see in another couple minutes. I 100%
disagree.
You disagree?
Uh-huh.
Okay, go.
And I cast a lot of PvPs, as we all do, casting the Open Cups. But yeah, no, I think the most boring part about PvP is when they both play like Sentry Stalker, and then they go into 3 bases, and then no one pushes out to try and punish the 3rd base. I agree. Like at that time, it's pretty boring, but the amount of variation that occurs is usually pretty high. There's still tons of cheeses. There's tons of Stargate openers. We have a dynamic map pool enough that you have some maps that have the 1 gate expand and some that don't. Max packs always exists, of course. And then you do have some. I actually really appreciate Blink Micro. So I think Blink Stalkers are a perfectly fine unit to be the one-dimensional unit. If it was Mass Colossus, like Heart of the Swarm, PvP, I'd just kill myself right now. I'd never cast another European Open Cup. But
In a video game.
Yeah.
Sal has trained us so well.
Yeah. It's good practice for this weekend.
Oh, jeez.
I really don't mind
people are going
PvP.
to get kicked in the chest in the video game.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
I even to echo some of the stuff that ZombieGrub was talking about, like I feel like we still see like a lot of proxies and other kind of fun random things as well mixed in PvP. So I don't know. I still enjoy it, but I can understand here's actually the other 2 cents I have on it is that I feel like the more fun and safe and normal like matchup feels to play, the less fun it is to watch a lot of the time.
But
the more fun it is to watch, the more stressful and terrible it is to play. And I feel like that's how PvP was. Like, I hated playing PvP when it was the most fun to watch. And I think whenever it's like chilled out a little bit more in the meta, I'm just like, yeah, I can play this. I know what the F is going on right now.
Although, I mean, feardragon, talking about how you play the game, I don't think that's a fair approximation for most
Believe
people.
it or not, I actually have accounts I play standard on. Okay, I don't actually just can't
that's news to me. That's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
For me, I'm less talking about openings and stuff, because there's like 4 viable openings even just off 2 gates. Like, we still do see evolution from time to time. I'm more just talking about the dominance of Blink Stalkers as like your core unit in the matchup. And I do agree Blink Micro is cool, but like when it's Blink Micro versus Blink Micro, it's kind of just like, it's like watching I don't have an analysis. It's like watching,
crickets fight.
Two people punch a brick wall side by side, and you're trying to see which one of them is going to punch harder and get through first. And whoever does wins, but you're like, man, could they just punch each other? Like, that'd be really cool. It feels like they're just, it feels like nothing's happening. Even though there's so much happening, no one's making progress. Like, it's like a World War I trench warfare situation.
Faster paced queen versus queen.
Kind of fast,
like
a little bit. Or faster paced roach versus roach.
I think,
and it's once again, it's just because it's become so common. Like, there was a match in the World Team League where SOS didn't make Blink, and he played Charge Lot Immortal, and I was so excited. Charge Lot Immortal Archon, I was like, oh my god, he made units that don't do the thing right away. It got me excited.
I mean, I understand wanting some differences. So if we had more opportunities for Charge Lot Archon to make it in again, that might be cool. But I personally will never want to go back to Charge Lot Archon versus Charge Lot Archon at +2, and whoever hits it faster wins. Those are boring units. Like, unfortunately, the case is that there's going to be some boring times in all StarCraft games, right? But at the very least, if there's constant action, and oftentimes those Blink Stalker battles are more about like who's reinforcing where and who's counterattacking where and who has a better concave. I still find them exciting, but I would personally equate them to the stage of TVZ where the Terran is obviously just giving up on trying to push. So they do 2 double drops and then macro at home. And it's just like, it's as you're saying, it's like punching a brick wall. We know those drops really aren't going to do a whole lot, but we have to like go through the rhythm of casting them because like, oh, maybe they'll get more creep tumors than expected. But it's really just waiting for the Terran to be prepared for the Zerg to overwhelm them. So I still prefer the Blink Stalkers because at least they're action. At least it's a back and forth. So I can't hate on PvP. I can't agree with this topic.
I don't know. I've long been of the opinion that like mirrors should have different win conditions. Like, the best mirrors are Charge Lot Archon versus Blink Stalker, Mech versus Bio, Muta versus Roach, whatever it is. And I guess the challenge there is because you will have Blink Stalker. You will have Charge Lot Archon. But like, how can you make both viable? Is I guess kind of where we're circling around here. And I'm not sure I have an answer. But it does seem like there's always going to be one good mirror, and the other 2 are going to be less exciting. Like, TVT is good now, so PvP can't be.
That's kind of what it feels like, a little bit. And once again, like, this is just like a fundamental difference of opinion, like what is compelling. Because like good Blink Micro is exciting to watch, but when you see it every match, and if you have top level players, you are going to see good Blink Micro. They're going to be good at it. But like, and maybe this is because I'm casting too much StarCraft. And that could mean that I'm absolutely the exception to the rule. But like, when I see it for, the 15th time in a week, and it's like, oh man, and Max Pax and Skillis, they have impeccable Blink Micro. They're blinking their units back. Neither of them are taking real damage, and they disengage. Like, obviously it's more than that. There is, like you said, there's the concave and whatnot. But like, I feel like with Blink, it's almost too much utility. So like, setting up a really nice concave where you catch an opponent out of position with, units that don't have Blink. So you have to have gone into the engagement with like a jump I guess. Like, you have to have set it up beforehand. Then it's like, oh, okay. Like, now it feels more like a wrestling match where like one person gets the other guy in a good hold and then they're trying to fight the way out of it, as opposed to like watching Nightcrawler fight Nightcrawler in the X-Men. And you're like, oh man, I've got you in a headlock. And then he's like, haha. And he blinks out behind him and you're like, well, that was kind of bullshit. You had him in like as Tasteless would say, a Muay Thai clench. And then he just disappeared and now he's behind you. And then you're behind him and it just keeps going back and forth forever.
I don't...
Steadfast. Oh, go ahead, ZG.
I just don't agree that it's that... Because one of the good things about playing Stalkers is that it is a matchup that doesn't end abruptly. Like, if we talk about the biggest gripe with StarCraft being just like, oh, disruptors, which PvP eventually gets into. And that also is like very fun to watch and excruciating to play. But Blink Stalkers by themselves are actually just like, you could mess up a little bit and you still have defender's advantage kicking with shield batteries. And it does matter if someone is better with Blink Micro, because it's not just about Blink Micro, it's Blink map control. So they get those situations better to be in a better concave. I personally am okay with it. I would say that you might cast too much StarCraft. In a matchup that is going to like kind of like narrow down after 8 minutes. Like, because I totally agree with that. You know, ZVZ still has like a lot of wildness, so I can see people having fun with casting that. And TVZ is a lot of potential, I suppose, before Terrans decide to 4-base. But yeah, just there's so much PvP because it's all that exists in the number 10 player versus the number 50 player in StarCraft 2 is so Protoss heavy.
Yeah, most ESL Open Cups, at least the EU and NA ones. Like, I think there was one this past week for the NA Cup where the top 16 seeds, I think 13 of them were Protoss.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot. And
like
the list, it went down to like the top 25.
What I'm hearing is that you had 3 different matches you could have done that didn't involve a Protoss, and you actively chose PvPs.
No, I did those ones. I had to search for them.
Then why are you complaining? It sounds like you don't cast that much PvP.
Oh, yeah. I think the problem is that I am now actively avoiding it is the problem.
I see.
But once again, that might just be a me issue that like I may be completely off base. And once again, like it's a very valid point that maybe I'm just doing too much stuff and I'm seeing it too much. So I'm like becoming desensitized to good Blink Micro.
You might be. Or, you know, because as I said in the beginning, I do agree that it tends to just go down to that. And then it's about like who gets the disruptors when it's really get exciting again. But it isn't a huge issue. I'm British now, in my opinion.
In fairness, the openers have narrowed. We lost for the most part the ability to kind of do the 1 gate expand low ground idea. I mean, clearly the Balance Council wanted Max Packs to lose more in PvP, so they nerfed that. But so in fairness, that there's less variety of openers, which can lead to narrowing quicker.
I don't know if that's true. If the actual balance patch changed it as much as the maps also changed, right? Because the last map pull was 1 gate city.
Well, like yeah, but like Max Packs and particularly Max Packs, but other Protoss players too were able to make no ramp 1 gate expand work. But between the shield battery change and maybe not the sentry change, but I'm forgetting all the changes in the last patch. It's
the Void Ray double nerf.
The Void Ray was nerfed, and then the shield battery. Those are the two. Yeah. Sentry got a buff actually. So.
Yeah. It came out faster, so technically, it doesn't really matter actually. Buff. Not for this.
They're Ferraris now.
Yeah.
You can hop in your sentries, take them to the mall, and you're gonna have yourself a great day.
Actually makes those stalker aggressive options better because the sentries stay in Guardian shields better. It's great.
I was gonna say I feel like Max Pack still gets away with about 50% of his 1 gate expands, even against very good players. So I don't know. But this we got to move on because we're on a time schedule. So let's talk about Games Without Borders, which we can still kind of touch on Protoss because no Protoss made it through. So. We can talk about the results, and we're going to talk about the upcoming bracket, guys, because they did release that. I think it's on Wikipedia, so I don't have to change. Brilliant. This is how I'd like it to go. So here it is. If you guys watched last week, you already know what went down. But here, Marine, Serral, Spirit, and Raynor made it through in the EPT section. And then we had Solar, Beyond Dark, and Maru make it through the Korea section. As you can see, there are no greens. There's only one green anyways in EPT, but there are no greens who made it through. So,
which is actually good if you're a Protoss. Not because you're hoping that your race doesn't make it through, but because now we get more Protoss games this weekend.
Yeah.
Plus, better chances to balance wine.
That's true. We get the two Protoss are facing each other right off the bat.
Oh my god, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh man.
Well, now we're guaranteed one in a
really good in
qualifying
that
match,
matchup
though.
too.
So.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steadfast.
Oh no, I was just saying we're getting one in a guaranteed qualifying match. You go on.
Yeah. No,
True. And then we have the Korea one. Protoss a little more spread out. So.
Well, that just means they don't get through then. They can't, we can't guarantee them in a qualifying match anymore.
No, but if Hero doesn't make it through DRG, then he deserves to lose,
Damn.
That's fair. Honestly.
Take that, DRG.
I'm actually so surprised Hero didn't at least take a map off Maru on the stage 1, considering he had just beaten Maru in Wardy's tournament.
Yeah, but Maru had just lost the match. So he was extra pissed, and he lost it to the guy that he's nuked a billion times. So he was extra Super Saiyan mad,
Right.
I mean, let's be real though, Steadfast. Maru did that to himself.
He's doing some weird ass stuff.
Yeah.
Series.
Yeah, but he still almost died, so he still got the Saiyan buff of coming close to death and then getting back to life. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happens. Maru can generate his own energy field or momentum in space. He'll just do what he wants,
Of course, yeah.
Oh, also, he had to qualify out in second place. That has been the spot that Maru has been living in for the last 2 years.
Oof. Damn.
Well,
Maru fans are about to find Beomulf's house. Find his address.
He's eating at the same buffet that Yellow is.
Oh, damn.
Well, Sue.
Of course, yes, Sue.
Yellow is a much older reference.
Yeah. Before I was even following StarCraft, but,
Yeah. Sue definitely has those curses on too.
Memes aside, though, we did have some pretty wild results, no?
Yeah, the first day of games were amazing, first of all, and then the second were pretty bad, and then the third was a mix. So there you go if you want to watch the days. But here, Marine making it through was fine. Oliveira really did not look very good, but he is playing from China, so there's that. Serral did his Serral stuff. Spirits, I think, just proving what we were kind of hyping up to begin with, which is that he's definitely one of the top contenders of the world at this point. And then Raynor just went on a killing spree after he lost to Special.
I mean,
I just want to, Special kind of popping off a little bit and then falling flat, unfortunately, at the critical time. I just want to toot my own horn real quick. I wrote an article going into and this CG too. You knew what he was looking like. But I wrote an article going into IEM Katowice talking about the ESL Cups. So I've been writing a couple of those. And I was just like, Spirit dude, he found it. He found his new gear. We've talked about it for 6.5 years, but he's actually doing it for real now. And I was like, I could see a world where he gets a top 12 or a top 8 or a top 12 at Katowice, which he missed by one series. But look what he's doing now. And sorry, go on.
It's just funny because you even hinted at it that we've been saying for 6.5 years, and I feel like it's like every hour we're saying it's 3 o'clock. It's it's not 3 o'clock. It's 8 p.m. And another hour later it's 3 o'clock. It's no, it's 9 p.m. If we keep doing it 6.5 or 6 more times, eventually it's 3 o'clock. It's I told you guys it's 3 o'clock. It's
I was one of the few people that was not saying that. I actually didn't say that until I saw his match versus Raynor in the ESL EU. And I was like, holy shit. He actually just bullied Raynor. And I was like, okay, this is pretty legit. And then he bullied Gabe for like 3 weeks straight. And I was like, okay. And then that was me jumping on the hype train because he hadn't done that before. He hadn't done that before in like real tournaments. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm mostly just poking fun. I'm with you, and it's great to see Spirit finally living up to the 6.5 years of hype we've been giving him. Some of us have been giving him. Yeah.
Although, I just want to make it clear that
I'm gonna check your Twitter now. I'm gonna search for references to Soul. See if you hyped him up at all.
That
but not Soul Spirit. Although what I will say here is, I mean, yeah, Spirit. Once he got down to the lower bracket, in the contrast of everyone in the lower bracket, that was kind of the softest run he had available to himself. Right? Lambo is good, but Lambo is not Raynor. Lambo's not Cyril. Special is hot and cold all over the place. Yeah, he took down Raynor, but he got bopped by Cyril, and he didn't qualify for the GSL. I feel like at this point, more often than not, and this is just Special's gonna DM me after this and say, "Hey man, what the hell?" But I feel like he's the era where we're expecting Special to be a top 4 at all the foreign tournaments and like being that good player. He'll occasionally show that, but I mean, he lost DreamHack the final DreamHack Latin America. He has not been that impressive.
Well,
he has not been that impressed. Damn it, Ravi. He has not been that impressive player that we kind of expect him to be, weeks like given his history.
I kind of agree, but I will actually challenge that. So the LATAM thing was he was playing with like 300 ping. This, by the way, this is exposed.
Checkmate.
Checkmate. Yeah. And I'll hold to that. Soul is actually an incredible movie.
Fact checked
and wrecked.
True facts.
But yeah, no, Special actually, I think Special's actually hit a bit of a power spike recently. Like he had a pretty great IEM Katowice and got kind of bullshitted out of qualifying to the next round. He had a better series score and a better map score than Oliveira and I think another player that also qualified, but he got like really unlucky with what it was. He was like 3-2 in series. He beat I think Solar and DRG in that group, which was pretty impressive. He beat Raynor in the same tournament. Like, it was just really solid stuff, Oh, Cat Cam, that's important.
It's very
counter to that though. Like you pull up his form, 44% in overall games, like 30% versus Zerg, 40% versus Terran. Like, I would argue that his Katowice performance was a pretty significant overperformance based on everything I've seen. I've cast him in Open Cups, I've cast him everywhere else. I was happy to see it. I'm like, he's back. But then, he's not making the top 4 of any Open Cups. We're not seeing those results that we used to see from him.
But like, to be honest, I'm as someone who covers the Open Cups, I don't know what the numbers are, but I guarantee it's more than anyone has covered any other Open Cups. So I do put a lot of weight on them. They're not as important as IEM Katowice. They're not as important as Gamers Without Borders. So he's showing up at the big tournaments, and he's always been a strategy prep based player, Yeah,
I mean, and maybe I'm not giving enough credit recently, because I even look back at Atlanta, and he didn't have that great run at Atlanta either, if I remember correctly. So, and I'm not just sitting here trying to say Special's horrible. I'm just
no.
More pointing out that Spirit finally's done it. He goes through on day 1 like one of the top 4 players, but his run, especially once he got to the lower bracket, was kind of the easiest possible.
Okay,
yeah.
So
avoiding Showtime, Raynor, and the reigning world champion is definitely that you'd prefer to not have to face them.
Yeah, but I'm glad we kind of went back around to the starting topic, because there is a decent chance that you wouldn't get to face the top 3 of Europe, because they're literally on the same side of the bracket.
Yeah.
So you could also say Here Marine had an easy run. And game 3 was supposed to really be Spirit's too. So Spirit would have had an easy run if he went to the top anyways. Considering his history with Here Marine has gotten so much closer anyway. So easy is always a quote unquote, but I would say it's as easy as beating Special, who, if he's on a good day, which apparently he was that day, is very, very capable of getting through. So Anyways, we kind of talk that a decent bit. So let's just stay on EPT and talk about the upcoming bracket, which is now released. So if you guys don't know, by the way, generally, just to get it out there, these invites, invites to a qualifier, whatever you want to call it, are based off Katowice. So Neeb is retired. People asking about that, and then other people like, where's Scarlet, where's MaxPax? MaxPax didn't go to Katowice, he doesn't go to offline tournaments, and then Scarlet didn't do well enough in Katowice. Just to get that out, because it's always like the first thing asked. And now we can go into what is effectively like some people did worse, and so they're invited to stage 2, which means they have one less chance to make it through. But the people who didn't make it through the first time get sent to stage 2, which is really just another bracket. In the same exact fashion that last weekend's was. So it's a little weird, but it's not too bad to follow. So now that I've described that as well, we can talk about Oliveira versus Cham, Clem versus Lambo, Special a Laser, and Showtime Estrella. I'm going to say Oliveira, I think actually if he plays like last week, if whatever's happening is continuing to happen for him, he's going to lose to Cham. And I don't usually say that lightly. As much as Cham has given surprises and upsets in the Latin American region, I feel like Latin America is some weird like Twilight Zone vortex of just making people play different. I'll put it that way, different than what they usually do. And Cham is like the instigator of that vortex. He makes it. He's just weird enough that whatever he does seems to work, even if he's playing honestly not very good. Which I've been quite critical because he's had some games that I've had to cast and I've been like, he's literally supply blocked at 20, at 30, at 40, and he still wins this game. What the hell is happening? But yeah, Oliveira's not playing very well. So I think he's going to lose to Cham, who seems to be playing better. That was about 6 months ago, to be fair. And then Clem Lambo didn't look particularly strong against Terran. So he might be pretty screwed. Special has a decent chance again, though, I would say. And then I think Estrella has a good chance as well, actually.
I cast a PV. He's been very off the radar. He's been playing a lot of Terran and Open Cups. But he played Trigger on Monday night. He looked really good. Like he's not, I don't know that he's back on, number 1 NA form, which is probably the spot we should give him now that Neeb is on sabbatical, retired, whatever you want to say. But he's starting to shake the rust off. Like he's looking good. It was a really impressive PvP from him. Yeah.
He's a very exciting player to watch.
But then the following match was an equally uninspiring bop, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it was a PvT, right?
Versus Beyond. But it was like he lost to like 6 Reapers, 3 Hellions, I think, in one of the games. Now that was a matter of like he misread it and didn't have a shield battery, but it was still like one of those things where you're like, whoa, that wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, I think my understanding is that I think after Katowice, he was just like a bit burnt out.
Yeah.
So I think he was he's just taking some time off. And
he'll be back. He'll be back to he will be the best North American player unless someone drastically steps up.
Yeah, it's just a question of whether he's back in time for this weekend.
Right.
Showtime looked really good. I don't think. I think. I don't know. Because like Showtime was like this close to beating Cyril, and then we're talking about a completely different topic, which is Showtime having maybe the best qualifying run like of his career, potentially. But like obviously, if ifs and buts were candied nuts, we'd all something. I forget the rest. I think I favor Showtime in that one personally.
I mean, in fairness, though, Steadfast, you say Showtime. I mean, first of all, yes, he did do well against Cyril. But if you want to count the number of times that Showtime has almost beaten Cyril and lost, I don't know. I'd have a Lambo or something. Like he plays. The amount of times he won 2 Cyril or 0-2s, but the games are razor thin. It's like watching Mario and Bien play, and you're like, wow, this is going to be a great series. It's going to be highly contested, and Mario's going to 2-0 it. Like, the games are going to be close, but we know the result already. So, I'm not sure that's a fair one. Like, wow, he's playing better than he is. It's just like, okay, well, that's just kind of what happens with Showtime and Cyril.
Yeah. I think that's how I prepped the game last weekend, actually. It's literally the kind of same exact thought process of being like, it's always going to be really exciting. We're wondering if he's finally going to do it. And then he just barely doesn't. So, yeah, that's what happened again. Any other thoughts, guys?
Point, yeah.
I want to go back to your first match thoughts on the Cham versus Oliveira.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious. Do you feel like Cham is playing better than Lambo is right now?
Oh, whoa.
Oliveira dumpstered Lambo.
That's what I was, yeah.
Lambo was not playing well.
Yeah.
Lambo was not playing well today, guys.
Yeah. No, I
lost
totally
to
agree
Ryung
with
at Katowice. Cham lost
Cham
to
had
Ryung.
Cham had a sick run at Katowice. He beat. I'm trying to remember all the names, but I do
Scarlet.
Scarlet. Scarlet's the one that I remember because I was very sad about that. But
yeah,
like the point is that Ryung's TVT, his TVP are so good, like top in the world, and then his TVZ is so bad, and he 3-1 Cham. So
2-1.
Was it 2-1? Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We didn't do the best.
But he dropped the map to Cham.
Yeah. So I don't think it doesn't. Yeah, you can't compare it because of the way that they've been. The way that they affect their opponent as well. So Lambo just wasn't playing very well. Like his performance in TVZ and Katowice was much better. And, he was practicing a lot of it, and unfortunately, doesn't seem to have really stuck around so that he can just kind of casually go back into it. So his games are not particularly impressive. But I would say that on average, Lambo is a better player than Cham. Like just in general, like in every single department. But Cham is a very different type of Zerg in general anyways, where he's just the type of guy that confuses his opponents, sometimes not on purpose, because he has to again, he gets supply blocked or something. So he has less roaches, and people are like, that's not a lot of roaches. He's not going to 1-1 all in me. And then he's like banking 1,000, and he gets 5 overlords at once, and then suddenly it's a 1-1 roach all in. And they're like, what? No, this is dumb. It hits a minute later, but it's still effective. And I think Oliveira, if he's still dealing with whatever issues he was last week, is going to be affected by that. And in general is going to be really weak to that type of aggression. So unless he can do tricky things, which he tried to do but failed against Raynor, then yeah, I think he, if it's a macro game, I guess, I think that he loses. I think he loses to Cham's weird aggression. If Oliveira's 2-star port battlecruiser works, then yeah, I guess Cham loses.
Personally, I think Oliveira is going to dumpster Cham. I think it's going to be standard macro games, and I think it's going to not be close. That's my personal opinion. Oliveira, I don't know. His TVZ has inspired me.
Not last weekend.
We all have off days, but I think it's going to be. I think he's going to dumpster Cham, to be honest.
Obviously I have a lot of respect for Oliveira, and I try to reiterate what everyone says about him, that he's one of the best Terrans even outside of the Katowice run. But he just did not look. He didn't look like Oliveira, I guess. He looked like Time. Which is also a very good player, but I'm just It's a joke, shut up.
I get it. I'm laughing. It's okay. I don't know. I'm just really excited about Special Laser though. I think that's probably the closest series of the top 4 of that bracket, and I'm really curious to see how Laser handles Special battle mech shenanigans, because I think Special versus Raynor is a stylistic advantage for Special, right? Because Raynor is going to be that early game, that chaos, that speed, and then if you throw something weird at him, Raynor's not necessarily known for his ability to understand a matchup instantaneously and solve it like Cyril is. He wins a lot on his mechanics, on his speed, on his ability to multitask. And I would put a Laser a little bit more on the, I'm not going to say cerebral, but zany level of player. He's not quite Lambo. But I'm really excited to see what he's going to do against whatever shenanigans Special has prepped for him. Because I think that's a style, not only are they of similar levels, I think that is a very prominent, I think stylistically they match up super well.
A Laser's a big question mark because he just doesn't sign up for anything.
That's also true. And we know going into Katowice, he was apparently not practicing all that much. He didn't have the motivation he was looking for.
Really? I thought that was the opposite. Wasn't he
Maybe
posting he's posting all the Instagram stories about his health and diet is really good and he's practicing all the time?
For that.
No, yeah, but he was also
motivation's like-
practicing. Like he was posting pictures of his results and talking about how he was training and stuff. Wasn't he?
I could have sworn I had heard that he was like motivated for health and everything else, but like was just really struggling to find the motivation to practice. I could be incorrect on that though.
I think when I spoke to him at Katowice and stuff, it sounded kind of like he had found his groove and he was just like accepted that he just played differently than other Zergs and was just like, I'm just gonna embrace my aggression. It was feeling a lot happier. So
nice.
You may be right about some of it. Maybe there's like some motivational stuff, but the sense that I got was that he was like more comfortable with who he was as a player and like his style and stuff.
Okay,
that's kind of inspiring, actually. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say I am excited for him to play burrowed banelings.
Yeah,
because he's the only player that is like burrowed banelings are good, and I'm gonna use them always.
I don't know how many times he's gonna get to do it, especially plays battle mech. But...
you baneling the Hellions. That's it. That's the play.
Speaking of which, just a cool aside, something I've been seeing in the meta a little bit, Dark evolving, I guess not even evolving, but like bringing it back a little bit. Dark's been using a lot of just flat burrow play against battle mech to just boop, boop, roaches go down, roaches come up, they break the lock on. Even if all it does is force out, constant scans, that's pretty good. That's worth it. Just neat little aside. Cool to see Dark continuing to innovate and continuing to be the most terrifying player, in my opinion.
That just reminds me of like, I don't know if you guys remember that level in StarCraft Master, where literally the level is just, it's like, surprisingly underutilized thing where it's literally just you burrow lings and then you wait for the Marines to walk over them, and then there's no banelings involved. Literally just unburrow lings on top of the Marines, and you actually do significantly better. It's just like, that just kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, yeah, wait, just burrow. Nope, it's not like banelings is literally you just burrow the units, and then you unburrow when you're on top of you.
Yeah.
That's
and the thing about that too is that it's like so good when you're on the back foot, because obviously if you have creep all over the map and your opponent's constantly scanning, well, that you're already in a good position because you've probably got creep everywhere. If you have no creep, they are never going to scan in a random place. So burrow is absolutely the most underutilized ability in the game. Maybe changelings. Changelings are the other one.
It's like the old ZVZLN, right? Where you would research burrow, not roach burrow, but just burrow, and put 6 roaches across the map and just play whack-a-mole. And it was the most obnoxious thing.
Yep.
Let's move on and talk about the Korean side. So we did have Solar, Byun, Dark, and Maru qualify, which are, pretty expected. You would have assumed Maru qualified against Solar, but Maru was playing some weird-ass StarCraft, man. That shit did not make much sense.
It's fun.
Sure. Yeah. It was fun.
Something.
And then he did qualify on the bottom after bopping Hero, where Hero played just kind of questionably. Not as questionably, but still questionably. And then I think that like Hero's the only guy you would expect to get out who did not get out. Otherwise, this makes a lot of sense, right? And the people that he was beat by to not get out make total sense.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any surprises here.
No.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gumiho for going to 5 games. I am not through that series yet. I didn't get to watch it. I've seen like 2 games of it. But I at least those 2 games. Shout out to Gumiho for playing an incredible series there.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. That was super, super long. I woke up because I'm trying to time the wake ups. We have shifts for this tournament. And I was like, best of 5's already at the game 3. Okay, I need to get prepared. And then I just sat there and drank my coffee for another 2 hours for the next 2 games.
Long first game of the day.
Yeah. And then also shout out to defeating Hero, because Hero was playing less weird in his PVT versus Gumiho. But Gumiho just was like, I'll fucking do it again. He just kept SCV all ending him. It was pretty inspiring. But yeah. And then we can go into the bottom side of the next bracket, I guess, with some of the people who
Protoss have been found.
Yeah, who weren't quite making it through. And so we have a couple more Protoss. So yeah, anyone who didn't make it through the top goes to the bottom alongside these 4 names. So now we have Ragnarok Bunny, which I hope Bunny wins, but Ragnarok keeps on doing stupid thing. Anyways, Classic Gumiho, Creator Cure, and DRG Hero. Ragnarok just keeps on being a puzzler. is what I mean. Like, he doesn't even do stupid shit. He's a puzzling guy. He's like, I'll win something and then I'll just not qualify for something else. Like, okay.
Can we agree that Ragnarok is just like the cure of Korean Zergs?
The cure?
The cure of European Zergs, yeah. Where he's just kind of a Zerg, you know? He takes some page out of Dark's book sometimes, you know? There's nothing... He exists, and he wins some games, but I don't know. There's nothing like really... that if you look at a game, you're not going to realize it. There's nothing identifying about him. It's like the same idea where Cure's like the distillation of Korean Terran, but there's nothing unique.
Oh, I agree about Cure. Cure is just like everything together wrapped up in some like mediocre vanilla sometimes. Sometimes like really good vanilla, but sometimes mediocre vanilla.
Vanilla made from beaver glands.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know about Ragnarok. Ragnarok, I would still say, is like way more prone to being super aggressive and over aggressive with Ling Baneling. And then he also does throw in more weird shit than Cure does. I mean, Cure's weird shit is a 2 rocks, and you're like, okay, you're a Korean Terran. That doesn't count as weird. Stop.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I look at Ragnarok, I'm like, he's Dark's son. Like, it's just, you know.
No, don't give him enough credit. That's too much credit.
I feel like Ragnarok is like the Willy Wonka Zerg, where you're like, he comes at you and you're like, what is this guy wearing? And then he starts rhyming at you and he's like, if you look under your hat, you'll find that there's a baseball bat. And then he beats you in the face with it. And you're like, oh my God, dude, what is wrong with you?
That's so funny. No, I think it's a perfect analogy because I was thinking of the first time you see Willy Wonka on the good movie, not the terrible movie, where he walks out with like a cane and he looks like some like poor old man. And Ragnarok is doing that because no one's like, still Ragnarok is that big question mark where no one really is like, he is the best Zerg because he got second place in GSL once. Like, no one said that even right after that happened or before it happened because it was a stomp. But he's like walking along with a cane and you're just like, oh my God. Oh, it's so sad. Like, I thought this would be really cool and he'd be like a really fun person. And he does like a little barrel roll and then pops up and it's like, boom, Banelings. And he died.
I think Maru came in with a crowbar and smashed both his legs out. And he's like, you get that cane back. You put that back where it belongs.
Exactly. I think this is a perfect analogy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like he occupies the same headspace in my mind as he's like a Korean Cham in some ways, where it's like whenever I talk or hear other players talk about him, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna name names, but this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of names who shall not be named. But like pro players don't seem to respect his play a lot.
Yeah.
Like
you can just say it. It was Maru. He 4-0'd him. And then
Maru.
He was like, yeah, he's never had an accomplishment in his life after literally sucking the life out of his chest. He was like, looked him in the eyes and was like, yeah, I had sex with his mother. I'll do it again. Like,
yes, exactly. But I agree, feardragon. I mean, I think it's not hard to even see when they're talking professionally. You know, when they're interviewed afterwards, like Maru. Yeah. But, you know, they just don't, again, no one's ever been like, oh, Ragnarok's really scary. The way they put it is, well, I'm confident it's Ragnarok, but I guess he did get second place in GSL, so maybe I should be, like, you know, a little worried. Like, that's how they put it. So, and I think that's the same thing for Cham, which is like, well, I usually am very confident, but, you know, sometimes he's kind of weird. and he plays a little different. So I guess, like, I should, you know, be careful. It's a baseline respect because all the StarCraft 2 pro gamers are now too nice and don't say anything mean out loud. What am I looking at? Rivalries?
Yeah, no, it's not just that he, you know, slapped him, but
victims
going in.
Victims.
Yeah, Ragnarok is minus 41 in maps. It's like a 20% win rate or something. Like it's bad.
I do love Aligulax, rivalries, nemesis, and victims. Victims.
His, like,
have you guys ever seen this? It's pretty funny.
It's and specifically Ragnarok versus Maru is probably, I think it's the worst matchup for anyone in, like, that you would consider them to both be like pro players, like genuine pro players.
So
like I don't know that anyone.
So not only is it plus 41, do you know what like the overall map score is between Maru and Ragnarok?
It's like 44-3 or something.
48-7, yeah.
That's not much worse. Oh my
Ragnarok
god.
Ragnarok has not taken a map off Maru since 2021.
God.
He's not won a series since 2019, and it was a 1-0 in an online BJ Destruction match tournament. That's the only series he's ever won, by the way. Sorry, not that we're punching down in Ragnarok, but we are punching down in Ragnarok.
No, that was Maru. That was Maru who did that.
Fair.
Anything we do after Maru, like, bloodied him up is just icing.
Yes, that's how it works. So that after someone is beaten down, anyone is allowed, without any kind of moral justification, to just beat up that nearly dead person.
Well, absolutely. You just be like,
That's
well,
how
I
it
didn't
works.
start it. Like, it's fine. So anyways, but Bunny hasn't been playing very well. Not super inspirational. He kind of, he did well at Atlanta and then really fell off hard, and it's kind of.
I feel bad for him. I feel like that probably affected his mental a lot,
right?
Because that was like he had that series, he had that tournament, like wrapped up, like completely. Like Game 6 was super over, and then Hero was like. He hopped out of his little box and he was just a wizard, and he wizarded his way into a Game 6 victory. And then Bunny was like, okay, Game 7, I guess we go to that one. I'm fine. I'm not broken mentally. And then Hero was like, oh, you're not broken mentally? I'll break you mentally. And he it was rough.
It was a
but
great
like
series,
really
though.
impressive from Hero. But like for how well Bunny had played, it was a little bit heartbreaking for Bunny.
Mm-hmm. I agree. There's something there. It's hard to be motivated, especially with all the bad news for Korean StarCraft. Wouldn't blame everyone else for feeling quite bad. What bad news? What happened, guys?
Nothing. Oh, fine.
But moving on, Classic Gumiho. After Gumiho's performance in the first bracket, I actually have a lot of faith that Gumi will make it out. But Classic's kind of in a weird spot. He's still under the radar for the majority of tournaments, but he does do well in the Korean Weekly. So I don't know.
Here's the thing. Classic does well when he doesn't have a team. And when he has a team, it seems like he loses all motivation and doesn't play well.
Oh.
So he is currently teamless.
Yeah, they're both teamless.
Yes. This is the battle of the two best free agents in StarCraft 2 right now.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I genuinely don't understand, though, because Classic had a great run through Katowice, right? I think he overperformed significantly. He gets signed to Mystery Gaming. He does nothing for the WTO qualifiers. He gets released, and now we get to see what he's going to do here. It's really weird that we see. I feel like we see most players they perform better when they join a team, for the most part.
Now, Beomulf, that's not entirely fair. He didn't do nothing. He lost 0-2 to DNS when his team was relying on him to make it through on their last life.
Oh, sorry, he did negative things. Okay, fair enough.
Maybe it's like the kind of people who they prep super hard for the job interview, and then when they finally get the job, they're just ghosted.
Yeah. Feel that. Like you've done something really good, and now you don't want to do anything for a little bit, and then you're like, well,
yeah,
great.
Yeah, that might be Classic. We'll see. We'll find out. Creator Cure, I think I don't have really strong opinions. I guess it'll be okay. It'll be a fun match.
Creator Cure is going to be a great match. They're both going to play at a high level, and one of them is going to win. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk about how good of a match it was. Mm-hmm. And maybe one or both of them makes it through, and then we'll forget about it because they won't be able to win the tournament.
That's kind of what
because
I'm
we won't have any webcams on, so we won't be able to enjoy Creator.
Oh, true.
If there were webcams on, then we'd be talking about it for a while after. But
yeah, true. I think that perfectly summed it up. And then DRG Hero, which Hero really should win.
3-0.
2-0.
That too.
Yeah. But yeah,
he's gonna beat him that hard.
It's gonna be a 3-0. I do want to. I noticed the win rates for this tournament. And I find it very funny. if we look at the Protoss win rate.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun.
But all the win rates are unfavorable for Protoss.
Guys, Protoss just weren't playing very well at this tournament.
Look how
funny
good
thing
Zerg
is,
is
in
doing,
March-
man. What the shit?
Well, technically in March, PVT had a exactly 50% win rate, at least per Ligulac. So we got the counterpoint.
It's just a small sample size. Okay, everything's fine.
Technically, technically 21 is the number for something to be statistically significant.
Oh, okay.
Well,
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 thankfully,
TVZ is
all the
great.
Protoss will be eliminated before we get to that point.
No, there have been 31 games overall. It's fine.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's how that works. It's not,
Yeah,
matchup
but have there
specific
been,
or
there
something.
haven't been 31 games with Protoss in it.
I know.
That's
He
the key
knows.
thing.
He knows.
I know.
Okay. I'm tired.
Allow me to misrepresent my stats, damn it.
Yeah. 98% of stats are all made up.
That was 97.
Yeah. So I think that kind of does it. I think there'll be exciting games again. I think the broadcast itself, by the way, kind of just touch on that, it's been okay. Those who watch my stream know how stupid the behind the scenes stuff has been going.
Hey, ZombieGrub, I have a question for you. As one of the professional commentators representing this tournament and having researched it, how does the charity stuff work?
No comment.
No comments.
This is literally this happened on Friday. If anyone caught this, where Pig was having some issues, and to be fair, I don't think it was the production's fault. It was just Pig something or another. But Pig was having issues, and I was on the desk with him, and Kalaris was like, "It's like if it's as if getting someone from Australia to this production is would be rife with errors, right, ZombieGrub?" And I just said, "No comment." And not only just to not stir up the pot, but then also I literally asked production if we maybe should consider trying to do something to offset Australianism, and they just never got back to me. So it's been really great communication.
So
But
they
it's
didn't even
actually
hit
been
you with
fine.
no comment. There was just no comment.
There was just no comment. Exactly. Yeah, it's been fun. Discord has been a delight. I so want to.
I hate Discord so much. It's what we use, but
No. They're not using Discord. Sorry, that was missing. So they're using a thing called Unity, and then
the game engine.
no, I don't think so.
No, it's not the game engine. Although, fun fact, Roddy accidentally downloaded the Unity game engine.
Did he?
Yeah, and he messages me as hey, can you hop on a call with me? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, yeah, man, they just did all the setup and stuff, and I think I downloaded Unity, but I downloaded the wrong one. I'm not sure if I have a virus or something. And I look, and it's he's literally downloaded the Unity game engine, and I'm like, Kev, I think you're gonna be fine.
In fairness, have you seen what they're doing with Rocket League, where they have dynamic Unity assets that they run the broadcast through?
True. Yeah.
So it's not the craziest thing.
It's not. It's not. But they did have a link in the PDF they sent us.
Okay, well,
but that's.
I did not find that link, I will say.
The best
I
part
must
of that
have. I didn't
whole
Google it.
story, Fear Dragon, is the fact that Rotterdam thought it was a virus. Is
That's
that he
also
thought
funny.
that a genuinely functional piece of software was a virus.
Okay.
I love Roddy, and I do think thanks to the setup of other people and everything helping him, he has a really, really sick setup and everything. But my God, that man, his talents, I'm glad that he has talents in StarCraft because they would not be in IT.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, we talk on Discord because the way that it's set up is that they have a web browser that you join and then you watch the preview, and that's how we hear Kalaris through the web browser. But then we hear each other through the program of Unity, and then we just went on Discord all together so that we could talk, and then that was our off topic as well because the way that Unity works, it's like having a channel joiner, right? So you have production, both listen and talk, and if you're live, you have live, both listen and talk, and then if you did it correctly, you could set off top as your listen and talk. But it doesn't, I tried it and it didn't really work. So we don't trust it, so we just all use Discord to talk off topic. But something happened with I feel like I shouldn't bring this up, but I so want to.
No, you should not bring this one up.
Oh, it's so funny though.
Tell us afterwards.
Yeah. But the point is, there's been some miscommunications and there's been some difficulties, but the actual show seems to be working fine. So
Yeah, their virtual stadium's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm glad they didn't try. I'm so glad they didn't try a stupid Katowice. We're at a desk, guys. Believe us. Which, by the way, I got my green screen out for no reason.
I was just thinking about that, and I also just remember Roddy loving doing this like weird. I'm here at this current perspective, and all of the cameras and like the aspect ratios of everyone are set up properly, and then he'll just do this lean in to the camera to become like massive on the camera, the Katowice thing. I don't know if you guys remember that. Oh god,
he's
that was a meme.
Yeah,
bigger than Gabe.
There's some problems with this setup. I mean, like the size of our cameras are kind of comically small, which I don't know why. Especially like the caster cams.
Is ZombieGrub just narcissistic? Does she just want to take up more of the entire broadcast thing?
Well,
does she know the commentators aren't the focus of the game?
How small does a camera have to be before you just say no cameras? Is more of my issue.
I think every broadcast day it needs to go down by half until like eventually it's like 1 pixel caster cam. I mean, and it actually the whole point of the break screen is for viewers to like search through pixels to find where ZombieGrub is. That is content.
And ZombieGrub, you'll still have to get your makeup done for that one.
Yeah. Well, there's a 0.1% chance that we'll have you on camera. So, God,
all right. Everyone else, your call time is 9 a.m. ZombieGrub, we're gonna just need you to stay here overnight.
Just don't take your makeup
the makeup
off.
lady's running a little bit late. We're pretty sure, anyways. We just assume she will be, but we just want you on standby just in case. And don't go to sleep either, because just in case she shows up early, we need you ready to go.
Don't go to sleep because my hair is not going to have to. It's not going to be enough time to get it redone. So if I sleep on it, it just kind of like poofs this way, you know. No, I can't nap in the green room, even if I have like a 3 series break. I could have 3 series of best of 5s as a break, and I can't nap unless I do like some like real like mummified shit, you know.
You need to 3D print like a headrest that works for your makeup. You could just bring with you to events. Oh my god!
Just get like an astronaut helmet. That seems like it'd work, right?
No, my hair is too big. It'll flatten my hair. I need volume, Beomulf. No,
I think your volume is fine. Like you sound great.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, my actual biggest issue with the production, the graphics so far is that winner screen, where it's, you know, someone wins and then it's the stadium and then it's just the race icon.
Yeah.
That's
kind of,
what is it?
It's kind of confusing that it's like 2 of the same race.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, is this a mirror matchup? Is it all? I don't know.
And then when it is a mirror matchup, we don't know who wins. So
true.
Man,
this is all just like we're the first Gamers Without Borders tournament, right? So this is just making sure that when the Rocket League, Gamers Without Borders, like the other tournaments are, they're going to have it really good. So really what needs to happen here is someone needs to tweet at them when they have their tournament saying, hey, you should think StarCraft. Like, hey, we did it for you. We have been
the testing ground for many things in eSports.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue as a whole we have been the testing ground. Just everyone afterwards is like, don't do what StarCraft did. Okay.
It's a great segue into the 2 topics from now. So
I know, right? I just want to touch also on there is some audio video sync stuff issues, but I just, you know, I don't know there's any fixing that, especially for Pig. So that's not too bad of a problem.
I'm just glad we fixed Roddy's.
Yeah, Roddy was having real big issues audio wise, not to the stream though, only to us.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times we were casting with him on Saturday and Sunday primarily, he was echoing like he was in a stadium or he was cutting out. So, you know, if we were bad co-casters, that's the reason. But we fixed it. feardragon fixed it.
Also, just kudos to Roddy, because pretty much all of his casts or half of his casts for like the last 2 days were literally him casting while also talking with production and also going through his settings like throughout the entire series and stuff. So I was amazed with how well Roddy did, given he was literally tech supporting during the series.
That is exhausting. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have been straight up tilted, and you really couldn't hear it in his cast. So it was
He
pretty
is
impressive.
a professional. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Consummate professional.
Consummate.
No, thank you.
Maybe. I was drunk enough.
I mean, consommé is delicious.
Wow.
What?
What are you talking about? We're talking about food.
Abusing alcohol on Twitch.
We're not sponsored yet or anything.
Yeah, right. Who
There's
cares?
nothing to fear.
I mean, you
Also,
did that one
have
like
you met
Fireball sponsor
ZombieGrub?
stream.
Half of her brand is alcohol.
It's still probably the first thing that shows up when you type ZombieGrub in Google.
Yeah.
Oh, the drunk.
Actually.
Yeah. Marauder shooting up.
Probably. Amongst
No,
such
we're talking about alcohol, not drugs, Dave. God. Marauder
Well-
shooting up. God.
It's actually not. It's ZombieGrub husband.
really,
Oh.
that's bumped up to number 1. It used to be
At least
ZombieGrub boyfriend, so now that I'm over 30, they expect me to have a husband. Oh no! If you press zombie, yeah, okay. So I googled ZombieGrub and then space. For me, it's Wikipedia, StarCraft 2, Twitter. It used to be much different, but also that's like my affecting it. So
Yeah, it was weird. Like I got ZombieGrub husband for half a second, then I got like ZombieGrub socials. Let's try incognito.
yeah, I was gonna show incognito as well. This is fun to do. You guys can do this.
Yeah.
No. This
Yeah,
is
no, it's still the same.
dangerous.
ZombieGrub, StarCraft, Twitter, Insta, Twitch,
Yeah.
Rifkin.
No, I
Right,
get this. I get the
StarCraft.
same thing as you. Like initially, it shows up as husband, but then if you just let it like think, I guess it's like maybe it auto searches if I have a husband. And it's like, nope, she's still a seamster. A seamster, seamstress.
Seamstress. Yeah.
Yeah.
You like any male would be a seamster, I guess.
I guess
That would be a good insult to just hit someone with at a bar.
you're gonna grow
You're gonna
old.
be a
You're being old
seamster when you show
seamster.
up. Like, what is wrong? What?
Hello.
Uh,
All right.
Anyway.
So, we got. Do you guys want to talk about WTL? Is there anything super interesting happening there?
Steadfast. I haven't had a chance to cover it this week.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
told
W-
Lambo Spirit's really good from today, but
I will be covering that after this happens. So that's good news. The other matches, spoiler alert if you haven't watched anything. Well, actually, I mean, I guess we can talk about like the news around WTL a little bit because it's been a weird way that we got to the regular season. Like super weird. A fair amount of like weird controversies, some of which turned out to be not controversies, some of which turned out to be like the weirdest personal vendettas popping up in like the Chinese scene. It's you might be able to speak to this one a little bit more, Beomulf, because I'm a little bit foggy on the details, but like I think Wax Angel on TL wrote a really great article, like talking, like he did like a preview and the whole thing there. But just to talk about it a little bit. So obviously, the way that the league works, there are 12 teams. 7 of them make the playoffs. Normally, 3, 3, or 4 teams, they've kind of like flip-flopped, waffled on where it is, but they mostly settled on 3 teams getting relegated. So you can either make the playoffs, go to the playoffs. You are in like this weird thing where you're re-qualified for the league, but you don't make the playoffs, or you get relegated out of the league for until the next season, and you have to try and re-qualify. But this time, we had the teams that got relegated, obviously kicked out. They had to requalify. And then we had like multiple teams like dissolving and reforming. Like Dragon Phoenix Gaming and Kites of Gaming were like, what if we combined Joey Wheel using polymerization and they formed together and fused? So now their spot is now available for Code S. So, okay, now we're up to 4 spots, I think. And then what was order of operations? I think another team disbanded.
Alpha X pulled out because they only had 2 players.
But there was a team before that disbanded too, wasn't it? Team NV disbanded.
Yeah, Team NV pulled out and they became Abydos.
But was that the same season? That was the season before, right?
Yes. No, yeah, we didn't have any Team NV.
No, it was Team GP this past season.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had requalified, I believe, and had a spot, and then that made like a 5th spot. So now we had 5 qualifying spots, And it's kind of weird too because WTL does this kind of neat thing where they do a big open bracket which qualifies into an 8-team double elimination bracket. So they were like, okay, we've got, I think it was 5 spots for the World Team League qualifier. And then after that, after the 5 teams had been decided, that's when Alpha X was like, actually, we're pulling out. We only have 2 players. Bye. Which was the weirdest fucking thing. That was out of nowhere because they have been extremely good in the World Team League. So there was like a lot of drama just getting to where we are. And then that caused like another thing. So basically, I think we had 6 teams. I might be misquoting, but I think we had 6 teams qualify that didn't start in WTL when it's normally only supposed to be 3.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. And then, all the drama specifically around Abydos playing or not.
Yes.
Was crazy. So I don't know if you all were following this. It turns out that Abydos got a little bit of blowback by maybe not performing as well as they would have liked, maybe not taking things as seriously. And then on the Chinese forums, right, there was this, or as part of this WTL, there was an onboarding process for all these new teams. There was this call, and one team, who was it? I think it was Mystery Gaming.
Yes.
For this, didn't realize that it was supposed to be like a really professional call. They thought it was just people hanging out talking about how the WTL was going to go, and they made some jokes about saying that like Abydos was going to be too easy. So like, well, no, sorry, it was SLT, not Mystery Gaming. My apologies. And anyways, Abydos took this as like this massive slight. They got super offended. Some people on the Chinese like version of Reddit or started like brigading this one guy who's what's his name? Let me pull that up. Like this guy Dumplings, who they called Madman Dumplings, and he's just like on this crusade against MYG, who had like attacked Abydos. And there's all this drama that leads to one of the Abydos players, the Team NV players, tweeting that we're pulling out. Like, this was supposed to be fun, and it's not fun, so there's no point. And then it all gets solved, and Abydos is still going to play. But it's like, I mean, you thought high school was bad.
It's high school.
Like, if you want the summary of it, here's I'll put it in the chat. Here's the Team Liquid thread of, like, the explanation of it. It's like the most high school Mean Girls thing I've ever seen.
Ooh.
And then it was all a nothing burger. Nothing even happened. Came of it.
Right. Yeah.
And nothing happened. It was so much nothing.
And then Mono deleted his tweet. It's all gone.
Honestly, like there have been a lot of rumors along the same lines for the last 5 years at least. I mean, really, if we want to talk about acting like high schoolers, that's existed in every single organization and industry ever. But especially when it comes through the Chinese stuff. And I don't know why, first of all. Like, I'm not trying to say that, Chinese people are more rumor mongering than anyone else, but probably because they actually own teams is probably just like the very simple reason, right? They're the people that can create this drama. There seems to be a lot of this that you can hear of if you talk to the right people about really petty shit going on. Like, it's so petty that they actually disband, for instance. This has happened, but won't be the official reason for some of the things in the past. Or telling their players, don't talk to those players, even though they've been friends for years before that. So this is really not new. It's a little unusual for it to be so public, but then for it to be swept under the rug and nothing to come out of it is not surprising, because that's happened so many times before.
And like, in fairness, the Chinese across multiple esports, the Chinese scenes are often known as like having the best memes and having like just really cool community stuff. But I guess this is the other side of it, right? When you have people that are that invested and they're building the best storylines and kind of building these incredible memes. If something goes wrong, it's gonna be dogpiled. Like, I guess it's the other side of the same coin. Kind of,
yeah. Because you're right. They have really amazing their own stories created, their own, as you were saying, nicknames. So most recently, I learned about Rainer's nicknames. Did you guys see this Reddit thread?
Oh, yeah. What?
It was like Tiger Rainer and Kitten Rainer.
And Kitty Rainer. Yeah, that was so good.
And then Cyril was like, like some incredible nickname. I forget what it was. Or just a guy from Finland.
Or just the Finnish guy.
Yeah, just the Finnish guy.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, these are all great. I I definitely upvoted that post because I think we're also just getting more people who are able to translate and communicate. Maybe as the scene has gotten kind of smaller, so maybe they're just noticed more, or they're just more dedicated. Whatever has happened. So that actually has been very interesting to read.
I miss lore. I miss the lore around StarCraft 2. Like, one of the neatest things, and you can still search this post up, it still exists, is the story of Baneling Mom. And I'm not going to get into the whole details of it because it's a whole long lore deep dive. It's from it might even be before the first GSL, but it's actually awesome. It is it's this story of this guy who plays a bunch of ladder matches against people, or it's something like a forum where they play customs, and he's like bullying people on the forum with games, and it's something where you get banned if you get beaten for 3 days or something, or you might even get banned from the forum for good. But basically, there's this whole lore about this unknown player, and then a bunch of really good players start coming up and trying to beat this guy, and he keeps beating them, and then finally, after a super long time, somebody finally beats them and gets everybody unbanned. It's a really cool thing. So I miss that.
I thought you were going to bring up the sad Ultralisk.
I was thinking about
the sad
that too.
Ultralisk?
Have you guys not seen this?
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. Dave, you should read this, but have you ever watched I'm trying to think of a good comparison, a really sad, heart-wrenching movie or something that's gives you the highs, gives you the lows, prepare yourself mentally for it.
Is it the Happy Ultralisk?
The Happy Ultralisk, yeah.
The Happy Ultralisk was apparently made after Tears of the Ultralisk or something like that. But yeah, the Happy Ultralisk is the one that's I was thinking of.
Okay.
It's Wings of Liberty beta memes though.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, not even beta. I think it was right after launch or something.
Yes, right after launch.
Okay.
You guys can read it
before my time. I was a swaddling babe in diapers.
Yeah. So it's helpful to know what was going on during that time period with the StarCraft Ultralisk, where there was some really weird stuff going on with the headbutting of buildings and extra damage buffs, and then there was a bug where the Ultralisk would literally just be cleaving things at 15 range.
Oh no, the bug was that because this was the one that affected Fruitdealer.
Yes.
So I just went over this, so I'm very knowledgeable. It was that they weren't hitting the splash in front of them in the cone. Whatever they were hitting had the splash.
Well, it's scaled with the size of whatever they were hitting.
It might have done that as well, but literally you can see them attack a Thor, and then the Thors around them would also get splashed.
Yes.
So it wasn't the Ultra Splash.
It would literally.
I'd be all for that. Can we have that back?
It would splash the back of a planetary fortress.
Yeah.
The SCVs repairing were getting hit on the other side of the PF by an Ultralisk. It was
that's
amazing.
the only reason that Fruitdealer made it to the finals.
Yep. And unironically, that bug, we might not have modern esports. Legitimately. We might not have modern esports without that bug. Because
that seems
Fruitdealer,
much.
Well, hang on. Fruitdealer's story was so good. We had Zerg's win rate was 10% at that point. Yeah. If he doesn't win the first GSL, do we get what we get? Does GSL pop off the same way? Do you really think so?
Yes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You think so definitively?
This is the funniest Zerg cope I've ever. If Zerg had not recovered from their 10% win rate, would League of Legends have been made? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, StarCraft 2 was the dawn of modern esports.
I mean, Zerg was always, it was always going to get fixed in some way. Blizzard was committed to making esports be a thing. It was, there's zero question. In fact, there's the argument to be made that maybe Blizzard fails less in their esports if Fruitdealer doesn't win.
Can you give us a little timeline, Steadfast? Okay, so Fruitdealer doesn't win GSL and Zerg stays at 10% win rate versus Terran versus Protoss. It was okay. What happens?
People are like, oh my god, TVT, ugh, it's so boring. Fuck, I don't want to watch GSL
that still
anymore.
Happened.
This is
that
stupid.
still happened. GOM TV
later.
GOM TVT
was fine.
Later.
Not very much later.
Yes, but then StarCraft 2 started to decline eventually.
That was
but
not because of
GoMTVT. That was not the decline.
I think I could.
No,
You know how many people?
It was like part of the swarm.
Do you know how many people
the
came
thing is,
to me and would be like, I actually left Wings Liberty because of Blood Infestor when I make my StarCraft history videos?
It was bad. It was bad.
No one ever comes and's like, GoMTVT made me leave.
Wasn't there someone...
I think the excitement around Fruitdealer's victory and what it meant, because he had like a big story, you know? Okay, and to thinking about what I'm talking about right now, what happened with the WTL just now? Olive Barrel won, and WTL just got sponsored by a huge company.
That is nothing.
Massive.
That's no comparison at all.
Story.
Different.
No, it's a big comparison. It's a fair comparison.
No,
it's the same.
If
It's
Fruitdealer doesn't win,
right?
StarCraft 2 doesn't suddenly die in Korea 6 months into its development.
And
or its
you
release.
also you can't underestimate just like the pure strength of Chinese nationalism here in terms of like it getting big in China. Any game, right, where a Chinese player wins the world championship blows up in China. Like you don't have that level of that hyper nationalism in most other countries that would lead to that explosion or lack thereof.
That's true as well.
I'm also confused.
There was always going to be a Korean winning the tournament anyways.
Yeah, I'm confused by the comparison. Like, is it because Fruitdealer won, a Zerg player decided to sponsor StarCraft?
No. It's because Fruitdealer's story was beautiful.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. The story. I'm not comparing it to nationalism or anything.
This is literally the first 2 months of StarCraft 2. While Fruitdealer's story was great and probably got a couple of fans, StarCraft 2 was already like its main tidal wave that eventually washed up on shore and disappeared was that it was new in Korea.
I'm gonna link you guys a video.
And like you might have been able to make the argument that like if Fruitdealer had like gone on and been good, it's like, look, not only did he have this story, but he actively brought his family out of whatever. But he went to like GSL season 2, season 3, and then, you know, had all the addiction issues that he had, if I'm remembering properly, and just fell out of esports very quickly.
Addiction issues? What?
Yeah, I think I want to say, maybe I'm peddling something that I'm misremembering, but I want to say he had alcohol issues.
I have no idea about that. But this was a video that was made like commemorating his thing. I don't think you guys realize how much of like an underdog story it really felt like. And like it was big. It was really
Steadfast
really
is
big.
literally like history splaining to me right now.
I'm
someone who
say,
has been like more avidly excited about StarCraft history than I'm pretty sure anyone I've ever talked to.
I'm gonna say like I think I might be a little bit wrong on the timeline for this, but I'm pretty sure when Fruitdealer won GSL, like Twitch had not even blown up yet.
Yeah, it was still Justin TV.
I think that had a much more significant impact than I would say Fruitdealer winning, right?
Absolutely.
On the overall
like
success
being
of
the
StarCraft.
only esport, really.
Yeah, and Fruitdealer's victory had hardly anything to do with the amount of money that was being pumped into the international scene, which we know would become much more popular and more invested into StarCraft 2 esports than Korea ever really wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's okay. I am happy to live in this world of Zerg copium that Steadfast is in, that if we hadn't had a Zerg finally win that GSL.
Can this be a meme? Can it just be like a Fruitdealer didn't win GSL 2000 or a 9/11 wouldn't have happened?
If we didn't have Brutal Investor, the game would have died.
Oh my god. No, I just think it wouldn't have. I think it like accelerated the growth a lot more than people give it credit for.
If
like,
I
don't think we would have
beat
had
Classic
the
in that
same
one
thing
3-hour Swarmhost game.
If what?
I do agree with you, Dave, that I did help, like for sure. There was momentum and hype around it.
Mm.
It just may be a little bit of an exaggeration that I'm gonna be making fun of you for the entire weekend that's coming up. That StarCraft 2 may not exist without Fruitdealer winning.
He said modern esports wouldn't exist.
Modern esports that exists without Fruitdealer winning.
The good news is modern esports might no longer exist. If you want to segue into our future
There we go. That's the segue.
Actually, yeah, because I got like 10 minutes left, so let's go.
Yeah. Jokes aside, Steadfast. You're funny. I like you. We do have some non-StarCraft 2 specific topics to talk about that have just been popping up more recently. So I'll kind of like bing, bam, boom through this one. I'm going to start with Overwatch League woes, actually, even though it's not totally centralized in the Overwatch League, which is that Overwatch League, once again, is proving how unsuccessful their model is. Chengdu Hunters did not end up showing up for Overwatch League. Literally a team for their league did not show up because the owners were, of course, Chinese, and Blizzard pulled out of China, sure, but then also all the reports of all the franchise owners being very frustrated with Blizzard because they're not making any money after they gave them like $10 million plus, however much it was. And this was, of course, back in the day in 2015, 2016, when people were still very much high on the idea of esports. And they famously got like an NFL guy to come and like give them advice about how to make leagues and shit. And then they did what they did, which everyone thought was a terrible idea for esports. And it still is. But then esports as a whole also exploded, attempting to like match this perceived hype that people were seeing, right? All the amount of people that were excited about this. But now we have kind of our less exciting years, our less optimistic years. And what I want, I guess, the chat to do, if you have time, right, is to go through some of these articles that have come out, or videos, right? So Devin Nash, he used to like be a part owner of TSM, I think, or something like that.
CLG, I think. Oh yeah, that
CLG.
Yeah.
Was it CLG? Okay, I was like one or the other one. And he actually knows a lot of shit, so he does these videos. They're just him talking for a long period of time, so I would say they're not usually the most invigorating, but they're very insightful, constant talking, actually quite fun to listen to. And he did make a video that might seem like it's a bit like clickbait, but he does talk about very legit things. The esports industry is dying. Can we save it? But he talks about a lot of very legitimate things. And he comes, he brings in all of the information that he has as a, former team owner and current, he like owns like a agency basically that helps connect like sponsors and stuff like that. So you can see here on his notepad, which is quite famous for, that, the team revenue versus the team operating costs. And it's kind of general. This is Overwatch, this is League of Legends, this is Valorant, this is Dota. It's basically everyone. And the TLDR is, of course, that the team revenue sources don't make as much as the team operating costs. And part of the reason that he says that this is a big problem is that, the developers, that esports is so connected with the developers, right? And the developers are usually the ones that are getting all this money and they're not doling any of it out. That's a huge concern. And then he goes on to talk about how Valorant's actually changed. Valorant's system, you just apply to be a part of their league, and then you either make it or you don't. But then they're doing a revenue share for their teams, which is better than what they did for LCS, which LCS was also like a buy-in thing. They gave them money, and then they received very little in return. And
$1 million a slot.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So it's a very interesting video. You guys should definitely watch it. We also have Riot Games apparently actually creating a what would you call this, Beomulf? A guide?
Like a thesis on their approaches to esports.
There you go.
Yeah, like it's their master's thesis.
There you go.
This is what we're doing. This is what we've learned from esports over the last 10 years and monetizing it, and this is where we're going.
Yeah.
It actually it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you were following the reactions to it. Like Monte Cristo and people of like that ilk were like, wow, this is a lot of words that's saying nothing. Which is fair. They make some questionable statements in that document, but
sorry, I also just read Discord.
Yes, big fan.
I just gotta, okay, 1 second, guys.
Pull it up. Yeah, white paper is probably the better term, Ragnarok at.
So, okay. Sorry, guys. But yes, so that's actually fascinating because Riot has not only been on the forefront of Overwatch League, Jesus Christ, of esports, but it's literally been there from almost the beginning, because it wasn't there when StarCraft 2 was. They developed their system after StarCraft 2, and they were definitely capable of seeing what StarCraft did wrong. But effectively, for what I would say, like the new modern esports, if modern esports as a whole was ushered in with StarCraft 2 and Twitch, then maybe like Overwatch League era kind of ushered in the new. So they've been through everything, and they've made their own mistakes. People are widely critical of the LCS and the way they handled it, and they seem to have learned from that, and then they put into Valorant, and have yet to fix the LCS by what I've read. But it's a long article, but it is fascinating to read all the things that they've learned to try and make esports viable. So yeah, it's a lot of homework if you really want to dig deep into it, guys. But it is fascinating because there are legitimate issues as to why, like the why and how of esports and how it actually continues, if it does continue. So I guess kind of the topic for right now is, do you guys see a way for esports to actually be monetized? Or are we totally doom and gloom, and people just realize that it's not only a bubble bursting, it's not just the bubble of Overwatch League and $1 million buyouts popping, it's also, StarCraft 2 esports shouldn't even really exist, or fighting game esports shouldn't even really exist.
Well, I think the core of an esport is like, I think there's so many things you have to do first before you make an esport. First of all, you have to make a game that can be an esport. You don't just start and say, I want an esport, and then you make the game afterwards. That's what they did with Overwatch, and it didn't work because the game is not watchable. And that's not because the game isn't good. It's not because the game can't be enjoyable. It's a slew of reasons. For me, the biggest one is they've never made a viewer interface that actually makes the game watchable with your goddamn eyes. They haven't made a game that is actually watchable. They haven't, and sorry, I'm a little heated about this because it pisses me off so much. Because they put so much time into being like, pay us $50 million for a franchise spot, and they didn't make, like, it would be like if you had, modern sports and they hadn't invented video cameras yet, and they were like, all right, you should be able to sell advertising and stuff, and they're like, well, cool, but we can't show the average person the game, and they're like, well, that's not our problem, give us money. That was kind of Blizzard. There's a lot of like behind the scenes stuff that happened that is really really weird with the startup of Overwatch that I don't know that I'm maybe able to discuss. But to put it succinctly, pretty much everyone that worked on the start of Overwatch, like the crafting of the league, was gone from Blizzard within like 3 years. Yeah. Like they had been removed from Blizzard within a couple of years. That was a very weird situation that happened. Yeah. And then they charged, like I said, $50 million for these franchise spots that were all speculative. They meant nothing. But to me, Blizzard Overwatch is the worst way anything could have been done on like so many levels. They just got everything wrong, and it's unbelievable that they could have gotten everything wrong.
Also, many of the people who initially worked on it just left out of their own decision. They also, I think there was a lot of people who didn't really believe in what they were told to be doing. There was already a lot of complaints about people outside of esports telling them how things should go. And of course, the general burnout that accompanies most industries nowadays. So, it didn't start off good, and it's not ending well either. And just one last note on specifically the Overwatch League, Uber recently got into some trouble because his Discord screen cap happened. But the TLDR of this screen cap is that people are asking him about the whole, why aren't you on Twitch again? Why is it still just YouTube? And basically, I think the most important point from this is that the Twitch monopoly is beyond farcical at this point. Ironically, people generally care about the success of the league, and as though Twitch works, they wouldn't want us going near them. Seeing bigger numbers on Twitch doesn't mean shit because we can't monetize that. Frankly, we can't monetize the viewer anywhere. It's kind of the big like bombshell type of thing. So
the interesting thing there, I don't know if you read the Riot article, ZG, or read all of it, because it's a long thing. But one of the arguments that the Riot guy makes is that video games have access to the most most marketable or the most valuable marketing audience that exists, with specifically Gen Z. But that seems really weird to me, right? Because Gen Z doesn't quite have money yet. Like that's long been the argument about monetizing esports, is that you have all these young fans who will eventually have money and be able to buy things, but for right now they don't. And arguing that you have Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and that's like really valuable advertising money, when they don't have, like, for the by and large, maybe Gen Z is starting to have their money now, but like by and large, those generations, they don't have money. They have their parents' money, and that's not nearly as valuable of like an advertise or of a marketing cohort, I would think. So I guess that what I'm saying is it makes sense what Uber is saying, and I'm surprised that we're seeing Riot try to argue the way they are.
Sorry, trying to do some production stuff as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go, but also if I leave, I'm gonna break all the cameras, so I'm gonna give ZombieGrub a second.
No, you can just go ahead. I don't. There's no way I can fix it anyways. I think I can't.
Okay.
So you just break it.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Yeah, but I guess the big rant that I went on just now was, I'm feardragon now. Look at that.
Hey, I myself. This is great.
Oh, nice. Yeah, but I guess the big rant that I went on, like the core of it, is that there are some, like, we don't necessarily have to worry as much in SC2, which is really funny to say because we're going through like a really weird situation right now, which is not like the greatest, comfiest spot that we're in. But we didn't get started on a foundation that was doomed to fail. There are varying areas of like failing foundations, but I don't know. I would need to, once again, there is a lot of homework involved with this, but I don't think that all esports is necessarily doomed, because Overwatch League was like doomed from the start, and in my opinion.
Well, okay, so to be clear, Overwatch League is potentially a cause, but it's also like a symptom, or however you want to put that. It's very easy to look at Overwatch League because most people recognize it, and most people know about its very risky, nature. Everyone knows that this was a gamble and that it hasn't really paid off. Basically, all people I talk to, down to the casual esports fans, are like, doesn't make much sense to me. But it's something that's happening all over. So again, like the video, you can be pointed at. One of the things he pointed at was FaZe Clan. So FaZe Clan is a very popular clan team outside of StarCraft 2, of course, but it's in a lot of stuff, and it's very well known. It's got some very top tier teams, and they were evaluated at $400 million for a lot of these like articles that were, so esports is the next big thing. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then they went public and they're evaluated at like 36 million, which is still millions. I mean, that still sounds cool, but it's wildly different from what is actually going on. So yeah, again, all these things, and we get people bringing up that it's also happening in the tech sector, that basically evaluations in total are just kind of being like, they've been popped. Also, I kept bringing up just the idea of advertising as your revenue is also being very much criticized, right? Like the current generation of people are getting really sick and tired of advertising and subscription models, which is also very true. But esports has never truly found a way to get above a certain level monetarily, is more so the topic and the issue. And by that, I mean, you can get to a certain point, because I don't think the entirety of esports has been nothing but bad evaluations, overinflated sponsorships, and whales that love their game. There's been examples of people who actually make money in esports. But then we got to a certain size, and then again, it just grew out of control. And some of those things from the earlier days, I'm actually going to go back all the way to Brood War, was that back in Brood War, they actually could get a TV deal, which is what a lot of traditional sports do. They get TV deals with, very, very big TV networks and smaller local networks and stuff like that. And so that's what Brood War did back in the day in Korea. And then Blizzard came over and was like, wait a second, this is our game. Like, you can't do that. Like, if you do that, we need money. And that's also an issue. So the publisher and the developer controls everything. They always want to cut at whatever deal you make. And TV is not accessing esports. So those are typically the $1 million deals that a lot of traditional sports are making. And anytime a TV network would come over and say, can we do this? They've probably tried. Maybe they've tried. I don't know.
Yeah, we had E-League. TBS was broadcast on TBS.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And Overwatch was broadcast on Disney Plus, Disney XD or whatever it's called.
And then we had like Heroes of the Dorm Finals on ESPN2, I think, or whatever the second terrestrial broadcast is.
Yeah. And that might have done well. I'm actually not sure how well those things did. But if it did well, it didn't do well enough because they're not continuing with it. Maybe it did well, but then again, the developers wanted a cut of money that was potentially, terrible. Maybe that was really not a good deal, especially if it didn't make as much money as they were expecting. So that was one of the reasons that Brood War in Korea could be so successful, is that they had people fighting over, bidding wars about who was going to show Pro League or something like that. And then they also could have local sponsorships, which also really don't exist in esports very much, because its globalization is almost sometimes a problem. Because if I get sponsored, if my tournament in Denver, Colorado is sponsored by the Denver Brewing Company, the European fans, which make up like 40% of my viewership, are going to be like, cool.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the issue with the GSL, where they just had all these local Korean ads. And we talked about this last time, where apparently there were Western companies trying to drop ads there, and they just never responded.
Yeah. So. Yeah, which is either incompetence on their part, or maybe they actually did the research and they're like, it's not worth it. We just don't know. So then you rely on crowdfunding, you rely on advertising, you rely on subscription models, which everyone's getting tired of, and certainly never scaled to be the size of the great productions that we have now. And the times at which they did try and scale it correctly, so famously the MLG StarCraft 2 like show match stuff, they happen in New York with Palt Violet, every single weekend. They wanted $20 a month or something, or $20 a tournament, something along those lines. And I happily paid it. But I was like one of 5 people. So no one wants to pay for this shit either is another huge problem, which we did also touch on a little bit in a previous show. So where does that leave esports? Potentially we could scale back down again and be back to our roots of an MLG at an event that is sponsored very much by local things. Maybe they get a TV deal. I don't know. But that is the problem. All of the typical monetization that happens when you compare to traditional esports apparently just doesn't gel with esports. So
is there now? I guess we talk about monetization routes. What I think is really interesting is, I've long thought that like 100 Thieves is, of all the the big esports orgs, is doing it really right with their, we do esports, but we use this as a lifestyle brand. We sell all this other stuff. What I think is really interesting is I listen, there's a business of esports podcast, and I take them with a significant grain of salt because they're very heavy into crypto and things. But they have been talking for the last couple of years now with derision about what they call these hoodie orgs. That they're like, it might make them a little money, but there's obviously, we have the Devin Nash video. It's like, it's, 10, 20%, whatever it is. But they're like, this is a smoke screen. This is totally pointless. There's no point doing here. This will never provide the revenue that you're looking for. So I find that's really interesting, right? Where it feels like using esports to leverage other sales is probably the way to go, but that either that hasn't been working, or I don't know. Where do you all feel about that?
Say that again.
Like, I have long thought that orgs like 100 Thieves, right? Which they have their lifestyle brand. They sell clothes. They have Juvie now, I guess, but. That is kind of how that has been and obviously I don't have access to their financials, but that has been kind of the route a big esports org should be taking, where they have this esport and they use that to sell other things. They sell hoodies, they sell whatever. And Like I've kind of long thought that is kind of the route that we should see more of these organizations taking.
Okay.
And instead, I see a lot
agree,
of
yeah.
in some people in the like when you listen to some podcasts or listen to things and you see derision there. It's like, yeah, this is pointless. Like there's just nothing here. So I don't know where you all feel about that.
Okay, so
No,
the question is like, should everyone be doing like lifestyle brands and merchandising of clothing and stuff like that?
Like taking more than trying to find their income streams, like using esports to sell other things.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I do agree with that. Like, it does make some companies a lot of money. And 100 Thieves is very, very famous for that, I think. I think Cloud9 was also doing a really good job of that, too, at some point. I just didn't care about anything to do with League of Legends teams. But Cloud9, even now, is like, oh, that's nice stuff. But I fear that you can't possibly get 16 teams to do the same type of outsider branding and merchandise and expect them all to make enough money, right? But that is part of the problem, is that they are that's kind of part of the issue about this whole like developer owned thing, which is that ideally, and again what they're doing with Valorant, is that the team says we're going to be a Valorant team, and Valorant goes, great, you're going to have access to our system to sell stuff in game, and you get stuff and you get paid.
That is absolutely. I mean, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Like team. I've talked about this before. I want to have a team. I want to have a Team Liquid console. I want to have a team. I want to have a Team Liquid Hellion. Like that would make so much money.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And so many. Well, first of all, some systems aren't designed that way. Like I don't think Blizzard, if they did want to do it for StarCraft 2, they probably had a very tough time with it. For some things, they definitely could, but just not the extent that other systems designed later could do it. And then, I guess that's the biggest issue, I suppose. But then is that enough money, I suppose, is also still the question. Even if you take the 100 Thieves getting partial revenue from all of their skin sales in Valorant and they get all this merchandising, can every other company thrive off of that? Or like, is this actually enough? Because that's legitimately the question at this point. We're no longer saying, well, it could be enough because things could change and more people could get into it. And now we're asking, is it enough? Can you actually be a big organization with tons of employees and do this? Which, again, is really what we're coming down to for the chat, because I see some people talking about, like, Wardy's proving this wrong or something. Like, and I'm like, we're very small scale is fine. And Wardy is very small scale. We're talking about accelerating upwards to like
$1 billion industries. Yeah.
Well, yes, but even lower than that. Even lower than that. I'm thinking more like more homegrown lands. Because you might say like, well, let's just go back to like everyone who's interested in this builds lands, and then that'll be able to make money. Most of the people, certainly in StarCraft 2, but I think in general in esports, can tell you that lands still don't make them money. They do it because they're interested in it. Like Psystorm Gaming, I don't think has made any money from their lands.
It's all been passion projects. Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true for a lot of other esports. So like people who try and do League of Legends lands, they have to stay at a certain size, or Riot comes in and takes some of the money, but then they also just don't make enough money. If their workforce is volunteer, lands can make money.
Yeah.
There we go. Old school esports.
I was going to say, free, right? I remember some esports events like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember some surprisingly high prize pool and high profile events, even like that. To be honest, long-term sustainability, something has to change. It is a case-by-case basis on esports. But the reason that I get so heated about Overwatch League specifically is that I know so many angel investors saw that as the next big esport, and it absolutely shattered any faith that people would have as outside investors. It shattered it. And so many people got soured, rightly so. They were not wrong to get soured about that. But so many people got soured, and it ruined the taste of people who had never heard of esports before or had never played a video game, dropping 10 million, 15, 20, 30 million dollars on whatever. Like there was a lot of people that invested. And one of the ironic thing is at the same time, there actually was a huge investment in Team Liquid from a bunch of angel investors that was like kind of a lot more quiet, but much more successful, I think. Like there was like a huge investment in specifically Team Liquid by, I think, an ownership group, or not even an ownership group, like a group that was like headed up by, I might be misquoting, but I'm pretty sure, by Shaq. And
was it Cuban? No, Cuban had a different team. I think he had a different team. But yeah, no, certainly like that. Liquid is by far probably the paragon of like how an esports team can be successful.
Yeah,
but yeah, I want to say Cuban, but I don't think that's right. I think he invested in another team.
Yeah,
I know Rick Fox made Echo Fox,
and then
which was
fell
cool.
apart due to sexual assault allegations. Not to Rick Fox, but to
I was going to say, let's be clear, that was not Rick Fox.
Yeah, that wasn't Rick Fox.
Rick Fox is actually a dope human. Like he's like, oh, my son likes this game. I'm gonna make an esports team. Like that's just cool as shit.
That's not good. That's not good. Here, sustainability of esports. It's my son. I have a lot of money, and my son wants to make an esports team.
No, he's just cool. He's just cool.
Yeah.
That's just an aside. That's
right. Yeah.
That if anything, that's another point in the like,
Yeah.
The question though is, do you think that is this something where we just have to wait for like esports ready titles to pass into the public domain?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because a lot of what, certainly in that video with Devin Ash, is that, he did make it a huge point to blame the way that the developers have set up things. And there's certainly a lot of extra steps that are taken to cooperate with such a, what's the word I'm looking for the person that holds all the cards, then I'm sure that doesn't help any opportunities. So what I'm trying to say, like, imagine someone comes to try and get Overwatch played on their whatever they're trying to do, and then they have to go through all the hoops that Blizzard sets up. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm sure that doesn't help. And then you also oftentimes have like cannibalistic tendencies, is what I want to say, but in companies, because they're still game companies, right? So the game companies want to make a new game and promote the new game, make more money off of a new game, and games have to be new to be a certain appeal. So you get literally what happened in StarCraft is sponsors coming to StarCraft, and then the same company that owns StarCraft saying, no, don't go to StarCraft, go to Overwatch. That happened multiple times. So yeah, if we could ever make it so it's available for the public, but then someone would have to, keep up with the servers and all that.
Yeah, reverse engineer it. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very, very tough, but would it actually be helpful? Probably. But the only real example we have of that is Korea. And Korea is already so different because it's obviously one country that's very small. And so that affects a lot of things.
And even more so, like, it was given such a leg up in South Korea for so many reasons. One, there was a big economic downturn in the 90s, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, that led to South Korea looking for really inexpensive entertainment, which is where Brood War was like, they were like, oh, this is great, which leads into the next point, because everywhere was a PC bong. So you could literally just show up without a home computer and just play at the time. A lot of factors aligned together. So
there's like three major factors. There was South Korea looking at the future more than any other country and installing the hardware that would allow them to keep up with the future. And then there was PC bongs and the lack of personal computers. And they hated Japan. They still hate Japan, but they really hated Japan. So they literally banned all imports. So Nintendo and Sony couldn't even get consoles there.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that last one.
Yeah, that's why Japan is such a console-heavy region, or as we know them, and then South Korea isn't at all. History, anyways. But yeah, you're right. Like it's all totally different. It was the only esport as well. Nothing else is going to compare to it in terms of entertainment value, which is what happened with StarCraft 2 initially. There was no other choices, and then eventually other choices came by. So yeah, there's no example that we can even think of a game being in like public domain, as you say.
Chess.
That I was just gonna say, chess might be the closest one. That's come back. That has, obviously everyone can do whatever the hell they want with chess, and no one cares. And so that's allowed a lot of flexibility and originality, and people can not only build their brand off of it, but then use it for other things, as opposed to going to Dear Papa Blizzard and being like, remember me? Can you please, sir? License, please. Please waitlist these computers. Oh no, you forgot? Oh no.
And that's, yeah, I mean, you talk about license, that's the other massive problem too, because, I mean, obviously it's not the only reason we lost Coinbase as a sponsor, but Blizzard can change what is an allowable sponsor at will. And, obviously I'm not sitting here advocating that we should have tons of betting sponsors and, illegal BS, whatever, but you're still like, the fact that a sponsor can be here today and then be told, sorry, you can't sponsor this anymore, have fun, is another thing that is going to make it very hard to sponsor a tournament. Like, how much money every tournament, right? Every traditional sports tournament has an official beer of whatever. It's Budweiser. We can't, there's no alcohol sponsors allowed on Blizzard products.
Except that time that they let an alcohol sponsor Overwatch League.
Did they?
Yeah, it was either Bud Light or Coors or something like that.
That's the thing about making the rules, is you can decide
the exceptions. Yeah.
Oh, you actually do have enough zeros on that check. Okay, cool.
Yeah, actually. So that was super cool. Yes. And, obviously that's legitimately alcohol sponsors are big, because that's also going to be a lot of your local sponsors. People who are saying, you can't get a ticket to this event, come by our bar and we'll show the event. And also you drink our beer and then it works out super well.
It's also the highest margin business of anything. That's how restaurants make money, right? It's the alcohol, it's not the food.
No. I don't know. But that sounds right to me.
That's what I've been told.
Because alcohol, you can upsell so much, right? You can be $12 for one half shot of vodka and orange juice. You're welcome.
And the orange juice is the more expensive part.
yeah. So
you make the alcohol in your tub out bag. You're like, this is fine.
They just get a little blindness from the moonshine. They're not going to know it's us.
They'll just think that it's really strong and that they're saving money that way. So
yeah.
There we go.
Man, it's been 4 weeks and this hangover has not gone away. I still can't see.
And it's bar crafts I thought were actually going to be very very cool and stay around for a long time, and they really haven't. And not just StarCraft being what bar crafts originally based off of, but in general, bar crafts never really shot off as much as I would expect. I think there's tons of arguments about that.
I was gonna say, is that just really a function of esports not being popular enough yet? Right? If I want to say, I live in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. There is no point in me hosting a StarCraft for StarCraft. I will be the only person there.
That's true.
Maybe there's one other person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it in a bigger city, but even then, it's diffused.
Yeah, and you can't guess what people are going to show up for.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
If you make sure to play the Steelers game in Pittsburgh every time it happens, and you know what's going to happen. But Overwatch one day, Valorant the next, StarCraft 2 the next, 1,000 Thieves, 100 Thieves one time, CLG, which is now disbanded another time. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen?
But actually, that's actually a really good point, ZG, where we talk about esports as everything, this big bubble that we call esports. We don't talk about sports as sports is failing.
Yeah.
It's baseball is maybe dropping viewership, whatever, but basketball is on the way up, and everything is its own thing, and everyone acknowledges it's all athletics, but we don't think about it as this thing. It's they're all their own things that just happen to use the body to do something.
Yep.
So that really is just a marker of how small esports is in the grand scope of things, right? Where it is small enough that you can just lump it up into this one category. But I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but it is a good point.
No, that's a super important point. That's super important.
It's you could argue on one hand that generally means that people do appreciate more than one esport a lot of the time, but I have no idea if that even outperforms the amount of people who like different traditional sports. Possibly doesn't. So that I don't think that's really a benefit for us.
Although I guess on the flip side, it's I don't know. I don't know many people who are just I'm a fan of sports and I'll watch baseball on Monday, basketball on Tuesday. Maybe some, but they certainly have their favorite. But Yeah, like, but I think you'll have a lot of people who are like, I'm a fan of esports. I'll just kind of watch whatever's on.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's just me because I'll watch. I try to watch a bunch of different esports because I cast and I like hearing different styles of casting to try to learn from it. But in general, I think you have more people like that will watch, Overwatch League on a Monday and Dota tournament on a Tuesday, StarCraft, whatever it is, Katowice on a Wednesday, and like they will be more kind of general fans of people playing video games professionally. And I don't know. Like it's obviously not like mega fans. It's not like you or I. We turn into literally every StarCraft broadcast, but it may be more like transmissible viewership. I don't know. I don't have the numbers to back this up. I'm just kind of spitballing.
I would argue though that there's more of like this weird tribalism around the different esports too. I think you do make a valid point that there are definitely some people that are like, oh yeah, like I just like watching sports. Whereas like someone who watches tennis isn't going to be like, I love football too. Like you can love both independently, but there's not really a correlation there, like at all. And you might like the whatever sport because there's a big team in your region, and you're like, oh, I want to identify with other humans, so I cheer for the Toronto Maple Leafs, even though they're going to get eliminated in the first round for the 8th season in a row. That's going to happen, by the way. I think though with like esports, there's also people who are like definitely for a very long time with StarCraft 2, there was people who were like, well, I don't like League of Legends. They took our spot. They took our spot at number 1. Well, I don't like Valorant because it stole CSGO's market share. So like there's like this weird like petty tribalism that exists. It's very strange.
I think so. I think it's more than traditional sports. I mean, I think a lot of people that I know like to watch football or soccer or hockey or basketball will all snicker at baseball. So I do think there is some of that. Like I think I could make a joke about how lame baseball is, and a lot of people would be in on the joke. They might be like, actually, no, it's fun to watch, but they'd be in on the joke, right? But otherwise, I don't hear a whole lot of that type of, I don't watch basketball. It's a sissy sport. Football is the way to go. Although I'm sure there are people that are like that.
Guarantee you.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are also
people. Yeah,
but I think we're just in general we're talking about the diehard fans of like there will be diehard Dota fans that have never gotten over the fact that Riot kind of stole a lot of IP from a Dota All-Stars forum. They're like, I'm never gonna watch League because Riot, stole this IP or whatever. They've ruined Dota 1. Or you always have football people that are like, yeah, basketball's dumb. Like football's where the real men are. Or like you will always have those ultra fans that go and will only watch one thing and then like hate everything else.
Yeah, traditional sports is so hard to copy because of that generational fandom that goes with it, and how easy it is to join a city or a state or a country and then just be like, yeah, I'm with you guys, let's go to the bar. Again, you can't really get that same type of thing going in esports. And then I do want to, Chad's discussing a lot of things, but I absolutely agree with Ragnar Kett that I actually thought Overwatch League going for the city-based system was fine. Even smart, you could go. I thought it was very opposite of what I wanted esports to be. So there's that. But as far as making money or trying to get on a revenue stream that was proven, I thought that was actually totally fine. And I saw it, I witnessed it work when my friends got into Overwatch League after years of trying to get into StarCraft, because they just literally picked a team. And that was before there was even a Washington team. They just picked Texas for some fucking reason. But they did, and then they could join up with all the other Texas fans.
Texas is America's team.
Apparently, right?
You got that for Dallas for football?
Yeah. I don't
got anything else, but
then people were rightfully bringing up that it's so international, yet still. So
yeah, like every team was a Korean team at the end of the day.
Right. There's that issue that it really was hard to be like, go Texas. And then there was just 6 people that didn't speak any English, which I don't think is like racist or terrible to think. Like, as much as I love Korea and I'm a Korean fangirl, like you have to understand why people would feel closer and more connected to people who are, of course, from their state which doesn't even always happen in traditional sports. So that's only part of it. But then, at least they're from their country or from, they speak the same language. It's just, I don't think it's actually a bad thing. But anywho, and then the requirements for Overwatch League, the famous picture prior to COVID where they were like, this is the schedule. And, one of the teams had to travel like 12 different times, literally all over the world. Korea to Europe, Europe to North America, Europe to Korea. Like, it was insane. No one would want to do that. So I think they still tried to hit that international appeal that is great for esports, but they basically utterly failed. For a lot of reasons.
Are you familiar with with what K-Corp was doing like during COVID for their League of Legends team?
No.
Okay, so K-Corp is actually it's creator led. It was like founded by a like the biggest French streamer for I think League.
Okay.
And they don't compete in the LCS or the LEC, which is like the biggest. And now they're more than just League now. But like LEC is the big pan-European broadcast league, right? Mm-hmm. And below that, they have European Masters, which is more regional. You have, I don't remember quite how it works, but anyway, it's like tier 2. And what they were doing is K-Corp is explicitly a French team. Their broadcast is in French. And they were selling out stadiums having because this was during COVID, not everything was open, but French was. They were having K-Corp play in front of the stadium. And the other team was playing from wherever it was, and they had their broadcasters there. And they were able to have that local activation of, we're going to have a stadium, we're going to have that experience, you're going to meet the players, you're going to meet the casters, whatever. But their opponents were wherever they were, they're in Spain or Portugal or wherever it was, and they were playing from their home setups. And if you want to talk about having that international appeal and still providing value to like the local fans, I think that is and again, they were selling out stadiums. It was, if you look up some videos, it's insane what they were able to do. I think that is brilliant, right? Because then you do have that international appeal. You have a European playing against obviously StarCraft's not a team game. It's hard to make the comparison, but you have Clem versus Maru, and Maru is playing in the GSL studio, and Clem's playing in the GOM TV studio, or the O Gaming studio when that existed, or whatever it is. And you have fans for that, and then you have both. Like, it's kind of best of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, well, I guess one more thought, especially going forward, as we're seeing more esports start to do like server agnostic gameplay. And this is a more technical thing, but like AoE4, where they have a bunch of micro servers, and instead of everyone, you have to swap servers, it's going to be minimal lag possible. Stormgate, actually, they just signed a deal with a company that does that. I can't remember the name of that. It's on Stormgate Nexus, but actually I'll be doing an interview with them later in like a month or two. But they signed a deal for stuff like that. So like it's minimizing as the effects of lag through rollback and things like that, and our server infrastructure gets better, that becomes more possible. So I think that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that sounds like a really good system. And I think if Overwatch had just constrained themselves, or somehow, more, got other companies involved that did exist in other countries, so that you could have them overseeing North America and someone overseeing Europe, and then occasionally facing each other, as the big special event. Then that would have been. Oh, that would have made a lot more sense, because I do think the Homestead idea is totally fine. Someone was bringing up all the ways that, baseball would monetize with the beer sales, the concession sales, and the shop, which, you just are more tempted when you pass by something to buy something.
Yeah, like I would absolutely take the bus ride down to Boston to go catch a whatever game on a weekend. Even
though I had zero interest in Overwatch League, basically, not quite from the get-go, but pretty quickly, I would have gone to a Washington DC game. My friends would have gone. So there was definitely an appeal there. And I think that does help with some monetary, but then it does kind of conflict with the idea that LANs don't do very well, right? So we're saying that LANs like homegrown LANs don't do very well.
Okay.
Like Psystorm Gaming and Cheesadelphia and stuff like that. So it's really tough, because I guess you got to be a certain size. Like Overwatch definitely was a certain size of esport that they got enough eyes on them that they could say probably could fill up a lot of their stadiums that they ended up not using. I believe that. But as far as getting as far as getting, like, if StarCraft 2, if we're like, this is what StarCraft 2 has to do, right? StarCraft 2 is not going to get the money coming from above anymore. Praise, angel investor. It's going to have to come up from the ground again. So we're just going to have to focus in on the local stuff. It feels like the local stuff also is just not worth it at all either. So it's really tough to get these types of perfect situations like you're talking about with the French team.
Yeah,
I imagine those are the same French guys who ended up leaving O Gaming, if I had to guess.
No, it's totally different group of people.
Really? Okay.
Because they were doing this while O Gaming was still a thing.
They left
not...
O Gaming before O Gaming collapsed.
I still don't think so. It was a name I didn't recognize. I may be incorrect here.
Pomp and Thud?
No. So
it was not Pomp and Thud.
Hold on. To clarify, O Gaming was run by Pomp and Thud, but they didn't do all the games. They were just like the head of the organization. They basically hired what you could call a very much larger base rate TV. Yeah. So it's like they hired me and Rifkin, but we did League of Legends, and we outgrew them, and they kept on telling us what to do. So we were like, why are we even a part of O Gaming?
So this is Kameto and Kote were the two people that founded K Corp.
Oh, unfortunately, I won't know who the names are because I only talk about this like a very small amount with Funko when I interviewed him. But apparently that's the story, is that they hired the most popular, they got the most popular League of Legends streamers to join them. And then eventually the League of Legends streamers were like, why are we still part of this? Doesn't make any sense. And they left. Okay. And that was a few years ago. O Gaming closed down officially last year, I guess. They were limping along for a couple of years before that, though. But it's ultimately unimportant, by the way. So not a huge deal. But anyways, but the French fans have always been very, very vocal and very energized, and also very centralized in Paris for the most part. And even if they were, 2-hour train ride south, the 2-hour freaking train ride. So this
Plus
also
you have the go ahead. Sorry.
This could also go back to just like how hard it is to be based in North America, in general, for like everything we do. And then, add like the literal just like amount of shit that we have, the amount of land that we have. But then also the idea that a lot of these companies thought that they had to go to California because they did for a long time. They had to be a part of the same entertainment system that the California provides for, general media. And then they're paying out the wazoo for stuff they really don't need. But it's not like they get that much better if they move to, nowhere, Nebraska. It just, that has always been a problem as well for North America that I think we've discussed at length for why North American esports aren't particularly good. We don't seem to dominate any esport. Although,
in fairness, DG, just kind of going back to the size thing a little bit, like if we look at kind of history and what's worked well, or at least what I've seen kind of worked well. Like, look at how big the LCS studio is, even when they were big and when they were still on the weekends and not dying. They had like 100 seats less. It was not a big thing. Like, yes, they had fans there and you would go, and I think the LEC studio is the same way, where it's like, by being small, you're kind of guaranteed it's going to sell out, or mostly it's going to sell out. And you also have that prestige of, I was able to go get tickets that weekend. So obviously, is Boston going to get what K Corp got? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I guess it's a matter of scaling the size of the venue to what you're doing. And I think that's possible, even at smaller scales. And I think that's still, and that gives you room to grow. I mean, I know you've talked at length on your stream about having small lands and kind of building that into bigger lands. I think it's the same idea.
Yeah. It's hard to do it, though. It's like,
that's fair.
Yeah.
As simple as it sounds, like, we'll just start small and like work your way up. Plenty of people have tried, and I think we do have to be careful about saying, well, it just doesn't work because it hasn't worked, because guaranteed there's been a lot of like, and I'm not saying this is for Psystorm or any of the games that I did list, and any of those tournaments that I did list, but certainly a lot of incompetence, or a lot of laziness, or a lot of for Cheesadelphia, they like Nerd Street came over and was like, StarCraft's your thing, and then eventually it was, StarCraft isn't your thing. StarCraft is no longer a thing. Like, we need that money. So that happens as well, like kind of like corporate buyouts, I guess.
Well, at least Nerd Street paid their talent for the StarCraft event.
They did. and they got good cred in Valorant for paying talent of people who were underpaid by a different company, and then threw away all that good cred.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Nerd Street. Anyways, Joe's amazing. Just to be clear, Joe from Cheese Adelphi is amazing.
Yeah.
He's not Nerd Street. It is difficult, but I think the whole idea of getting money from esports from the ground up, from going more local, is still a good idea. I think it helps it all around, including player activity. So I've always been a big fan of the idea, which has never been implemented really, of dividing North America, West, Central, East. And that's at least a little bit more clear about where you got to go to see your favorite team play. Florida to New York is still a lot, but better than New York to California.
Yeah. And then you can just put them where the servers are. That solves two birds, one stone.
Yes.
Yeah. To be honest, I think Overwatch League was always kind of a little bit delusional.
Yes.
With what it was, and I think Blizzard and the people that worked on that knew it. I think they knew exactly what it was. I think it was a pretty naked cash grab. Maybe that's going a little too far. I don't think it is. And there's a reason that I am so harsh specifically on the Overwatch League, is because everything about what they did felt like that. And then I actually do think that the local thing that you're talking about, with stadiums and whatnot, I think if you start relatively small, I think there is something there. I think you can build something with that, but everything is stacked so much against that working out. It's stacked really hard against that. And so going in with the same concept of we'll just copy traditional sports. It feels like it was just like Blizzard's over there in the corner, like Grunkle Stan, and he's just counting their money. Yeah, do whatever you want. Fine. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. And they're just counting their fat stacks from this project that they know is probably it's going to need to be very specifically driven and very specifically guided, and they just didn't care. They just didn't care to do that.
And I think, to give Overwatch a little credit, and by the way, Overwatch League, I agree, was horribly implemented, was not good. At least they had kind of maybe I'm misremembering, but at least they had somewhat of a consistent game length idea. Because that has been one of the problems with monetizing esports, is how the hell do you set your ad structure up properly? You sell ad to TV, your ad's going to get shown every 15 minutes or whatever it is. And that was one thing that I think maybe I'm misremembering, but Overwatch did kind of fairly well, where each individual it was better able to stick to schedules than a League game or a Dota game or a StarCraft game or something, where it's my game might be 5 minutes and my game might be 45 minutes. Good luck.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a good thing, though.
I mean, it is from a monetization perspective.
But that's the thing, is they probably designed it with that in mind. And when you're making design choices for your game based on how do we monetize it, you're going about it from the wrong perspective from minute one. That's what it feels like, is that everything about Overwatch was it feels like it became this gross parody of itself from such an early stage of development. And it was the whole thing, because I know a fair bit about behind the scenes a little bit. The whole thing really leaves just a gross taste in my mouth, and I just hate it.
Oh, it's gross, but counterpoint there, Steadfast, Counter-Strike's kind of the same thing, where they have, and Valorant, because it's the same. It's the same format. Is you kind of know, you get a really good idea about how long each thing's gonna go.
Well,
I don't think designing for that is necessarily a bad idea.
It's not. I would argue it's not even they know how long it's gonna go. As Slowly's talking about, there's tons of overtime in Overwatch, overtime and all the esports. It's that they have natural pauses.
Yeah,
that's more of the thing. And I think as long as they have natural pauses, you can kind of shoehorn in an ad, even if it's a couple minutes late, even for traditional broadcasting. I'd assume that has to be the case. Otherwise, you really could never do it in esports if it had to be at 15 minutes and just like, we're just going to cut from the pivotal moment. Because they do it for traditional sports too, right?
Yeah, they have an X amount of ads they need to run per game.
Right.
And they have like some specific, it's the 2-minute TV timeout that gets run.
Exactly.
But otherwise, things
something
get fit
really
in with their
interesting that
timeouts,
happens with hockey is, they'll have the players just literally standing around for like for the duration of this thing, and it's like it looks super normal to us, but like if you ever attend a game in person, it feels really out of place and weird.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go to ASU's football games all the time when I was an undergrad, and we hated the televised games because it was just so much slower, because you just kind of sit there and the guy with the orange glove saying pause the game, hold on, the TV's running, the ads are running, would just stand there on the field. It's like, this is obnoxious.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the question for any video game to do that.
We're gonna pause Mario and Cyril 10 minutes in through every game so we can run 5 minutes of ads before we get into it again.
10-minute TVZ. Mario's probably a pregnant turtle.
There we go.
It's a natural break. No, these are all things that affect, the why traditional sports and esports are so different. There's actually just like an exhaustive list of why they're so different, and why they, even when they try to imitate it as Overwatch League does, they still, it can never be truly the same. So it's always going to be difficult. But I do agree, just off of the kind of overall point, the Overwatch League, I can believe it's very difficult to be hired for Overwatch League, working in Overwatch League, because it is just the low-hanging fruit, the shared kicking dummy of most people. And it's probably very frustrating because people put a lot of work into it and all that, all that typical stuff that you got to preface. A lot of very passionate people, a lot of very passionate fans, a lot of very good workers. But it is the most set up to fail biggest bubble that was bound to burst. The most like audible bubble bursting is going to be Overwatch. It's like happening in slow motion. It's Overwatch League, in a way that just simply other esports and other esports teams didn't really get all that media attention. So yeah, FaZe Clan was over-evaluated, and they got, a couple of articles made about them alongside other teams. But I guarantee you, if I talk to like my dad, tries to keep like a certain amount of interest in these things, but he's definitely not into esports, he would remember Overwatch League because they had so much hype around it. And that no doubt influenced a lot of the continued overestimation of esports. Is like, well, Overwatch League is doing this amazingly big thing. Maybe you guys should do this too. And then some people were like, no, that sounds like a bad idea. And then they're like, well, fine, we'll take our money elsewhere. And then they wasted it. And as you were saying earlier, they just they didn't get any money back, and now they're soured on the whole thing. So I think overall esports is always getting to a point where there was too many expectations. And again, in that video, they even have one of the, is it the FaZe Clan owner? It might have been, saying that they were expected to double the revenue every year, which is, insane.
And like, what was it like with, I guess, I know I'm thinking Overwatch League. Like Overwatch League hit their revenue expectations through like the first 2 years before the table fell out from under it or something. Like it was.
Oh, maybe.
Or like they hit their viewership. They hit one of their projections or something. I read that. I was like, really? Because it felt like it was a failure from the start, but no, like it
does sound familiar. Yeah.
The first little bit of time, they hit obviously it wasn't doubling revenue per year. Although, are you thinking about the 100 Thieves Nate Shot interview where he's talking about like why he is starting Juvie, because investors were like evaluating these companies as tech companies and therefore expecting doubling year over year revenue when that's just not realistic.
You're right. It was Nate Shot.
What they were doing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it just like eventually we weren't going to have that happen. People kind of expected it to be like the tech industry and had the same expectations for it. And it just like that wasn't going to happen. But again, the biggest example, the most public example, and probably the most front-facing, like, this is esports example is going to be Overwatch. That no doubt has been all eyes on it, most eyes on it for a long time, more so than other companies, even if they're all very popular. It's just Overwatch League is just like, bam, this is esports and this is failing. So yeah, no one likes that.
Like the one thing we haven't talked about was what was the company? Do you know what it was called? That actually shuttered its like esports statistics branch like earlier this year, where they were providing all the analytics of like, hey, this is what's like, this is how much esports is worth, this is how it's growing. Like they were it was like not ProPublica, it was ProPublica's a media outlet. It was I can't remember. Anyway, they had a bunch of projections, like not just the Forbes article, but they had a bunch of projections about where esports was going to grow, and it was just an absolute scam. They're like, with where they expected things to go, and then conveniently they closed their doors on that division like 6 months before the floor fell out from esports.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what it was.
Oh, what? It's a they're a metrics and demographics company. It's it's not Ars Technica. Cannot remember what it was.
It's definitely not. Okay.
It's definitely not like Ars Technica. Ars Technica is a media outlet. And this is not a media outlet. This is a I can't remember the name for the company, but it's like what a company's going to go to. They say, we want to buy an ad. We want it to be the most effective we can. What are our demographics? What are the numbers we're looking at? Like, who do we need to buy from? It kind of like Pew. It's not Pew, but it was kind of like Pew.
I'm sorry, I can't help. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But anyway, like we've given a lot of credit to like, wow, Overwatch oversold themselves, and it was just blatant money grabs. But I mean, they had numbers to back it up, and those numbers were kind of looking back on it, just like absolutely blatant scams.
Yes.
You had the Forbes article. You had this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember. I remember exactly what you're talking about, but I can't. I don't know what to Google.
Yeah. Right.
But and it's just because this is unfamiliar. I think this might have been brought up on the Richard Lewis show with Monte Cristo and Doa, because there was one very
thing, yeah.
Yeah. They talk about a lot of things I don't care for, but then they do occasionally just, especially if I read Overwatch League in the description, I'm like, oh, there's the juice. And they talk at length about that. And that's where, we learned that they were kind of thankful that COVID came to shut down all their international travel. They really weren't as prepared for that as they thought they would be. Yeah, I guess what you're trying to just basically bring up is that there were legitimate sources that were saying that this is valid. It wasn't just Overwatch League having the bestest marketing people that can bamboozle anyone, that can sell you a bridge or what have you. Like there was some backing to it, but again, anyone who actually really knew what was going on would have said that was insane, which I think is pretty true. I think it always has been. I wonder if there's going to be some like revisionist history where people are like, no one could have expected this to happen.
No one could ever. And by the way, shout out to Ranish, who like actually remembered what we were talking about.
Oh shit! Of course he did.
Yeah.
Well, you guys know who Ranish is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, that's Xlav. That's OG.
The
for
biggest
anyone in the
brain
chat
in
who's not
esports.
familiar. Biggest brain.
Yeah, I've just been like paying attention to chat. Every time I say something, just waiting for him to disprove. It's like, no, that's not what happened. Like,
good job, chat.
I've lived it.
Proud of you.
Well done, chat.
Yeah. But this is it. Yeah. 1.1 billion in revenues. No, hold on. That can't be it. No, that's not it.
Yeah. Well, it's set to grow to 1.87 billion revenue by 2025.
Oh my God. Good Lord. Holy shit. Beyond the Summit.
Like,
I was looking for something that no longer existed. I was like, there's got to be at least one. Poor Beyond the Summit. Actually, that was really sad. There's been announcements every week. It seems like every few weeks at the very least, where you're just as an esports person, you're just like, oh no. But Beyond the Summit was the biggest oh no that I had received. Bigger even than Blizzard pulling out of StarCraft 2, which I like. I was really hopeful they wouldn't, but they do have a history. Yeah. So I was like, nah. But Beyond the Summit just kind of was, I got a little gobsmacked by it.
They got screwed over by Valve pretty hard, where they've run Dota, like they got their start on Dota.
Right.
And Valve like went super hands off and started like really going really lowest common denominator on their recent like Valve DPC when they kind of made it turn it into a league. So BTS just didn't get a league this year. They didn't get the North American League because they said, PGL is going to run every single one of our leagues from one studio.
Okay.
Instead of what they did previous years was it was like Easter, like BTS got North America and Eastern Europe, and then like ESL got something and PGL got something. They all had their own studio broadcasts.
Okay.
And so BTS lost what I can only assume to be a massive revenue stream.
Yeah.
And
that is not why they shuttered their doors.
Okay, that's not why they shut down?
I know why they shuttered their doors. I don't think I can say.
Okay, that's fair.
But it is something that is very surprising that they were ever able to be a thing when you know this information. I hate doing this, but I can tell you that's.
Can you just say, was it something that, it was actually just really hardships and difficult, or was it incompetence?
Or mismanagement?
Yeah, mismanagement. Like which direction do we go?
Yeah, neither. It was neither.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was neither.
Okay, and then those are the only two things I could think of.
This feels like the two axes of it.
It's something if you didn't know it, you wouldn't know.
Gotcha.
You would never guess it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it is quite interesting.
Well, they
didn't
also
help themselves by like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, ZG.
They're also part of the Smash stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that famously went down the tube.
Well, it's not just that. It's that they were constantly putting out a lot of content all the time putting out content, which is like not that uncommon, but like a lot of organizations pick and choose. And if you know why they didn't get renewed, it makes sense why they were putting out content all the time, or why not they didn't get renewed, but why. Yeah.
Interesting. I guess we have to dodge around this one, but the point is,
that's the closest I can get without. Yeah.
The point was that article that it totally it suggested be making close to $2 billion. It had Beyond the Summit. It's like, well, that's gone. I was expecting like CLG or TSM or something in it. But I guess kind of what, chat's talking about, like the .com bubble, and we got some big brains in the chat, which I'd love to get your input on, as far as like general money management. But it's not like I get these people coming in my chat, thanks guys for being the regulars. And it just seems that every time someone's like, yeah, I actually worked in this sector, it's all bullshit. It's like most of what it comes down to. So it's like I'm really reading the specifics, but the actual smart people are just recognizing that it's all just like a bundle of sticks ready to collapse at any moment. It's like great. Our entire like system of money and shit, and the future is all just it's crazy and it's stupid. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny, but like we think that there are these people that are so sophisticated, and then we think about like, I don't know, and then I think about who I am as a person. And like, again, this is not me trying to put on it, like I'm getting a PhD. And I don't think I'm like all that much. And then like the people that do have all these things and leading here, it's like, well, institutions are just a group of people, and people can be very dumb.
It's true. Yeah. Which it certainly, everything is affecting the downtrend of tech and esports. There's a lot of things happening in the world. There's a lot of things happening in the world that's causing all of these typical sources of money and sustainment. Is that a right word?
Sustainability?
There you go. Sustainability. That aren't really existing anymore. So it does feel like the Great Depression of esports, of technology. I suppose people just say recession now. I don't know what exactly we have to go into depression. People say winter all the time, which I'm fine with that term as well. Esports winter is truly upon us. The dead will walk soon, very soon.
Well, the question though, ZG, is like, because we had an esports winter in like the late 2000s. Right, where like Western esports was starting to pick up, and you're like Quake, whatever. They had like the Ultimate Game, like DirecTV had a show.
Oh, late 2000s. Okay.
Yeah, and they like bought out all. I think it was Counter-Strike maybe, and they bought out like all this IP, and then they kind of let it all die. And then esports in the West died until StarCraft, because they had bought everything up and consolidated it, and then just let it collapse because I don't No, it was because it's 2008. They had all this
Sure.
investment, and then 2008 killed it, and then it took until StarCraft came out in 2010 for like esports to start to pop up again. The question is though, is like, do we hit that level? I don't think we hit that level of esports death. Like it's gonna shrink, and there will be scenes that fall apart, and we hope, as those of people that work in certain scenes, that our scene is not the one that goes fully under. But I think it's still kind of a sinusoidally on this upward trend where our peak today is still higher than our trough today is still higher than the last trough.
I see.
Like,
I know
I
what
think
you're saying.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what you can hope for.
Yeah, it's like Bitcoin, right? It went up and then it went down, but then went up a lot more. So we're just waiting for that.
What is BTC at? What is Bitcoin at right now?
I don't know.
I don't pay attention to it.
No, I think you're right, because like I literally was having this conversation with my father, who again is very limited knowledge, but he kind of pays attention. And he straight up asked me, he's like, "Do you think that's actually going to go away?" And I was like, I just like can't see something that is so universally appealing. It's not untrue that millions of people watch esports. That is not false. What may be false is in like, what concentration and how much money you can get from these people, but it's not false. So, but someone's going to figure something out that works. Valorant seems to be kind of leading it as far as kind of just like esports centric goes. I'm certain other video game companies will do more and more things to make it so that there's like a little bit more of that shared revenue and kind of cyclical nature to esports, the video game, esports, the video game. And that's exactly what Stormgate's trying to do, which we'll see how successful they are with that. But yeah, it's definitely not in a good place right now. And it is going to be tough. And you're going to see a lot of people like not return, unfortunately. But yeah, eventually it'll come back to a certain degree. I was going to bring something else up. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I guess you think about that. You talk about esport or talk about Stormgate. Actually, that's something that has me a little excited. Is that so when we see a lot of esports come in right now, right? It is we're Valorant and we're Riot Games and we're making a massive global esport with millions of tens and hundreds of millions of dollars of investment from the get-go, or the equivalent, And like Stormgate has been very explicitly saying, no, we're starting small. Like we are trying to do the corporate, I guess, grassroots from a corporate perspective. And I swear we're not just going to turn every real talk strategy in like the final part of it into this is why Stormgate could succeed. But because we did this last week too, or last time. But it is interesting that they are taking that kind of middle up instead of top down that we've seen kind of a bunch of other esports blow up onto the scene for a little bit and then collapse immediately because the company realizes that they can't spend $100 million on it every year, or whatever the number. I'm throwing numbers out there.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see how that one's going to work out.
Yeah. Different levels of this thing are going to be, necessary to really prove, what scale this has to be done at. But I know Steadfast has to go. So any last words?
Overwatch League ruined everything.
There you go.
And Forbes.
If Fruitdealer didn't win GSL, no, I'm just kidding.
If Fruitdealer
maybe
had won
Overwatch
GSL,
League would have never. Maybe he shouldn't have won GSL.
StarCraft would be alive if Fruitdealer didn't win season 1.
Oh my god, we cracked the code. All right, let me get my time sphere.
Up, down, down.
Yeah. You can leave whenever. I'll just fix the Discord myself. Okay. The one thing I was gonna bring up was just that one of the reasons that Uber is probably tweeting about this or Discording about it, this particular issue with Twitch. People talking a lot about ads. Definitely one of the issues that's been brought to the public is that the ads are not good on Twitch. Like Twitch actually doesn't so far abuse your privacy as much as the other ads, the other systems. So, sorry, little streamception there.
No, I'm just enjoying being like I'm split down the middle. I'm on two sides.
Yeah. But yeah, so apparently Twitch doesn't actually target ad as well as YouTube does. The two biggest competitors, right? And so that's been a big issue for Twitch. And they're literally trying to fix that now, so it's not some moral high ground. Am
I doing it? There we go.
Kind of.
Kind of. There we go. Kind of. There we go. I think we're good.
Chatting people too. There we go. I'm just gonna create multiple duplicates of the same system.
That's smart. We need to get you on video.ninja. It solves all these problems.
That's true, but now I have it set up, so like.
Oh, true.
Damn it. Now looking into it afterwards. So that's one issue that I'm sure Uber was alluding to, at least somewhat, with his, Twitch doesn't even matter anymore, guys. Stop bringing this up. And then there's probably other issues that I just don't know about. Uber has a lot more information than I do.
Yeah, no, I kind of want YouTube does so many things well, but finding their live streams is so hard.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
That is yes, Twitch doesn't have good discoverability, but at least if I want to watch a Dota stream or a StarCraft stream or a Valorant stream, I can just go click and there are all the streams. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube just doesn't have that, so.
And they wanted to work on that. But apparently the rumor is that they basically found out the same thing that Twitch does, which is that it's very difficult to make more money than they pump into their live streaming service.
Interesting. I haven't heard that.
I don't remember who I was talking to, but it sounds very much believable. It might have even just been like a video from Harris Heller.
Senpai Gaming.
Exactly, Senpai Gaming. But he's been pretty smart about most of the things. He regrets going to YouTube, so he's definitely made mistakes. But I think it was him, and he was talking about how YouTube basically also discovered the same thing, which is that it's just too difficult to make money off of this stuff. So they're not pumping in as much money into innovating and trying to beat the competition.
Although the interesting thing is, I don't know how much you pay attention to the technical side of things as much, but there is a new streaming codec coming out, and I know we're going into the weeds a little bit. That's been in progress for a while. It's called AV1. And the reason I bring this up is in terms of monetization or not is you can push a 1500 kilobit per second 1080p stream, and it's higher quality than what we're getting on Twitch right now at 8K.
Right.
So a lot of the reason that issues with monetization are it's just so computationally expensive to be able to run this, because you have to handle so much data. But if you can fourfold cut down on the data required to do something, then that does maybe that's going to be the difference we need. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I don't know either. I don't know either. Honestly, this does kind of tie back into the whole just where do we make our money from, and just the amount of stuff that people don't pay for is understandable, but occasionally frustrating, right? Because it's almost it's almost a cycle in of itself, which is that people don't want to pay for something. They don't want subscription-based stuff, that's for sure. And that I totally agree with. I don't think everything should be subscription-based. But if they don't want to pay for stuff, then they have to supplement with ads. And then so people don't want to pay for stuff that also has ads, of course, so they just need to make more ads. So that's a problem that I'm sure affects all different departments, all different games and streams and everything. But what was my other point? That Twitch, it came in as anyone can do this, but this is something that we've discussed a little bit amongst other co-commentators and other people in the industry, where I really don't think it's insane if Twitch asked for $5 a month from everyone who used their service to stream, not to view, but to literally go live.
Especially considering, what percentage of people that stream make Twitch any money?
Very low amount. We know that.
Right? It's what, 80, 90% of people have one viewer or fewer?
Exactly.
And I first of all, I remember the video that you're pulling this idea from. Right.
Actually, it's not a video. Roddy brought it up, and I was just huh.
I could have, because I'm pretty sure there's a Senpai Gaming video talking about it.
No, I missed that video. One.
Anyway, that makes because there are so few people, and then if someone's making money off of it, Twitch removes the requirement, because it is, if you're making money off Twitch is already making more money off you, then it's worth it. Theoretically, I don't know quite the breakdowns, but that would do so much to decrease server load, because you'd have a bunch of people that just don't want to do it anymore, and then everyone else maybe, I don't know if it's $5 enough, but still.
Yeah. Well, I think it already raises the barrier to entry just that little bit of much, which I know now it sounds, clip this, ZombieGrub attacking poor people.
There we go.
But
you're not even though, how much money does it take to have a setup that lets you stream?
Yeah, and then you add $5 on top of that, or however much it is.
$60 a year or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, like that actually does not sound insane to me, but it's currently insane because the base model that everyone then had to basically copy said that it should be free. So whoever does this first is the villain and might lose out on not just people signing up, but the moral stand as well. So people are like, I refuse to work with this company that doesn't let everyone stream at 6K bit rate and 1080p, and you're like, well, okay. All right then. So yeah, but as I said, no one's going to do it first, which is quite unfortunate, because if you do think about just kind of like, do we want Twitch to succeed? Basically, yes. I know Twitch is also like, a huge conglomerate and, funding billionaires, and Amazon is a terrible company and so on and so forth. Modern civilization is terrible and messed up. But in order to
under capitalism.
Exactly. We want to be able to still continue doing our jobs, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube or something else. And if that means that not literally everyone has access to this incredible technology, that actually sounds kind of fair to me. I don't know. maybe I am just a bougie,
So what I'm hearing is we just all need to move to Kick. And actually, you know what? That's an interesting thought. It just occurred to me. So Kick, right, has been making waves because, people make more money because all their money is off of pushing, crypto gambling, which means that actually, technically, a StarCraft tournament could never be run on Kick, right? Because crypto is banned by the StarCraft license. So I'm joking about, we should just move to Kick because, in the short term, it makes people money. And it's a competitor to Twitch, even though it's actually bootstrapping off of Twitch's like infrastructure effectively. Amazon has like an Amazon Live web service streaming something. And Kick is built on that. So it is the exact same as Twitch, except they're paying Amazon a little more. But again, we can't do that because they're owned by Stake. So never mind. We StarCraft literally cannot move to Kick.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Sorry, that was an aside.
Yeah, no worries. Someone's bringing up like, what if you split the difference and just the higher resolution gets $5 a month, have to pay $5 a month. I do think that there are ways you could actually do this, but again, the first person who does it is going to get a lot of flack for it, probably more than the money they make, or they probably would have already done it. Right?
That would actually be worse, right? With because transcoding is one of the things that's why only partners have guaranteed transcoding. Because that's one of the more computationally expensive things. So saying you can watch at 1080p at $5 a month, but you get 720 for free on the small streams, which are again like the massive loss leaders for Twitch. That doesn't make sense to me, because then Twitch because I don't know what the number is, but your streams only start to get transcoding when it's like 30 plus viewers or something.
Oh.
I don't know what the number is, but I when I was an affiliate, I do remember there was kind of this break point where I would get transcoding and when I wouldn't. So from that perspective, you might be able to cap it, say if you pay $5 a month, you can upload it at higher bit rate, but forcing that transcoding actually would be less of a good thing.
Okay.
Like it would cost. I would imagine it would cost Twitch more than it would gain them, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the research is on this, but I just really think that it's not insane to say that it should be done this way. But it is insane to be the one to push it first, because the first one's going to get screwed. If every single company doing this if basically Twitch and YouTube, let's be honest, said that they're going to do this, people would have to suck it up. And I don't think you would lose literally all potential future big streamers if you did this, which is the argument that you might hear. Okay, you needed to have a one viewer streamer to get Pokemon. It's like, okay, I guess. But $5 a month for all that you get, an investment into your future, if this is what you want to do, is actually a very low expectation for a lot of things. I mean, you pay that much or more trying to get into art sometimes. Pen and paper is pretty cheap, but then we all know that people always want to get something a little bit better. They want to move over into charcoals. They want to move over into the better grade paper and shit like that. So yeah, it just doesn't sound insane to me to be like, this is actually fair trade. And I would certainly pay that money to continue streaming.
Yeah, it would be, and I mean, nice thing for you, right, is because this is your job, or one of your jobs, right? That it's a business expense. You write it off on your taxes, and it's not even $5 a month.
Yeah, that's true. people are saying another service would show up, possibly, but there's two things. One, that might be a good thing. More competition is good, right? And two, so that actually would encourage competition, which actually might be a really good thing. And two, very few companies are even capable of doing this shit. Like, because it is so expensive, what they're allowing us to do for free. Like, I do think sometimes, and I could be wrong, some people are maybe very knowledgeable about how much this actually takes. But sometimes, because it has always been free, people expect it to be basically a baseline service. Like, since internet's always been around, I've always had it, it should be for free. And certainly there are some people who are totally a fan of internet for all. And maybe I am too. But the point is, it's just that it is a lot of money for them to do this. And it is actually quite amazing that the basic expectation was set as free for this much shit, for all the servers they have to support, for all the high quality streaming they have to support, because that's what they started off with, is actually kind of insane. The amount of servers that YouTube has that holds all the one fucking viewer YouTube videos for 5 years is insane. But that's just what the expectation is, that people do it.
And remember, right? Like, the expectation of free did not used to exist on Twitch. Like,
it's true.
Right? Like, it used to be you could watch, and I watched a lot of WCS on 480 or 720 or whatever it was, because watching 1080p, you had to pay for it. And it wasn't even that I didn't have the money for it. I didn't have a credit card or a debit card that I could use because I was 15, 16 or something. And that was not something my parents would be kind of willing to let me put their credit card information in and pay them back on. So like that, it's been I guess in general, the evolution of things on the internet have been paid to free. And I think, we're only just now starting to come to terms with the ramifications of that being. I was like, okay, how do you scale this now? Ads aren't doing it, clearly.
Right. Yeah. But that's also like more of an aside, I suppose, but it is kind of connected just in the idea that the expectations for what free and what isn't, and then the complications of just the overbearingness that is advertising and subscription-based models, they're all mixing together and creating a very difficult like target revenue. You know what I mean? Like what would actually work when all of these things are just constantly bombarding us. It's why like I literally do this for a living, but I am so afraid of asking, like doing a call out in chat, which every streamer is supposed to do. If you wanted to be an actually good streamer, you should do a call out at least, once every hour, I would say. Just a casual, like, hey, if you have a Prime sub, please make sure to use it on me. Hey, if you got a sub, I'd really appreciate it. This makes me, allowed me to do this. And so many StarCraft streamers don't do that. Because I think we're all just like kind of in the old school mentality. And we don't want to appear as money hungry or anything like that. So...
And the interesting thing on that too is like, that probably is one of the reasons why. What's the number? It's like, I think for most, or for a lot of streamers, it's like an average of they get somewhere around the order of like 3 times the number of subs as average viewers. And like for StarCraft casters, it's like half a sub for average viewer, on average. Maybe not quite. And I know your stream is not a good example because you do a lot of content that's not casting. But you look at Wardy, for example, he's like, he's got 1,000 subs. He's got 2,200 viewers, like on average, or, whatever it is. He's probably the best example of like pure caster or a pure caster and like looking at sub numbers, as more and more like StarCraft content creators have moved beyond just casting. And that probably is a lot of it is, we're seen as a service that provides, we're seen as like another ESL, right? Where we're a service that provides entertainment. The expectation of payment is not there, whereas Twitch has done a really good job of building that expectation of compensation for someone who's playing a game. And I don't know what would make that different one way or the other, but it is kind of this interesting 2-tiered system.
Yeah. There's a lot of paths we could take this conversation. And I'm thinking of one, but I think we also have to kind of cut this here, as we've lost 2 of our members. So thank you for everyone supporting during the stream. By the way,
well done. Who called in the fleet? There we go. It worked.
Nice. Yeah, call to action is the phrase I should have used. But anywho, I think we might want to end just kind of on maybe like any Q&A and anyone have questions, maybe we can answer. If not, then I guess we can kind of end it. I didn't get to rant about Smurfs on the ladder, but
I was going to say next time, but like you're moving and then ESL Master starts and we're not going to have any time for anything. So
it is going to be difficult to fit this in with the regionals being the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We can record our own segments independently, and then we get Cobra Venom to like mix it together so we have concurrent arguments.
Yeah, anticipate what the argument's going to be. It's like feardragon. I know what you're going to say. Amazing. I think we could maybe find a time, but it might be a little more difficult. How do I feel about Smurfs on the ladder? I'm so glad you asked.
Do it. 5 minutes.
No, seriously though, there's a Reddit thread that actually it actually is exactly what I say on my stream all the time, which is that I think the amount of people who think or want their opponent to be a Smurf are higher than actual Smurfs and map hackers by far. So someone did that. The ladder is not full of Smurfs and map hackers. It's full of people who think they are being Smurfed and map hacked. I 100% agree with this. So that's just and then Beomulf had a opposing argument.
Yeah, I will say though, like, yes, that is true, but I don't know. At least the levels I've always played at, there's always like 1 or 2 people that hate their mirrors. That specifically, it's Terrans that hate TVT, and they play mech.
True.
Because I play Zerg, and then it's like, and they have 80-90% win rates in the other 2 matchups, and you're just like, I am wasting 30 minutes of my day in a matchup that I will not win because you are actively smurfing by skipping your mirrors, and it is the most. I mean, that's how it, like, yes, you're skipping a mirror because you don't want to play the mirror, but that is functionally smurfing. You are artificially deflating your MMR by having a 0% win rate on one specific matchup because you choose to not play it. And it is miserable, but that's still
true.
like one or 2 players of like each skill set, and it's not massive.
Well, yeah, as I was going to say is that I find it difficult to believe that this is so common that it actually is affecting their skill level that much already. Expectations are, especially the lower leagues you go, people are going to have massively different MMRs for their races, for their matchups. Someone could be gold PVZ and diamond PVT. 100% I believe that.
That's fair.
So I don't think leaving, unless the ladder becomes nothing but TVT. If it's 80% Terrans, 20%, Terran and Protoss and Zerg, yeah, then leaving TVTs is going to be a problem. But I don't think it's that much of a problem. And I do know people are going to be coming in with like, no, I've definitely seen Smurfs, people who have left the last 20 games under 30 seconds each and then played me. I believe they exist. Don't get me wrong. I just don't believe the amount of people who say that they're contaminating the ladders is actually true.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is selection bias.
Yeah, the amount of replays that I've seen where the person thinks that someone's smurfing, because people will sometimes link their drop.sc replay in these Reddit threads, and then everyone's like, no, like, you're both bad, but here's how you're differently bad, and that's why you lost. Yeah. I think everyone in my chat is kind of like mostly in agreement here, because I've ranted about it before, but the best thing about that Reddit thread was one guy who was like, no, I don't know, man. I'm diamond, and I scare a lot of my GM friends when I play them. And then everyone just shitted on him so much, and so he had to respond to literally every comment saying, no, I didn't really mean, like, I just meant, like, occasionally my micro is really good.
That has been the argument that has been made about StarCraft, like the chat GMs, right? Has been an argument. Oh, you know what? There was a this was another game, but I think it might have been League. And I don't play League, whatever. I just feel like I saw something on Reddit or someone was talking about like the trench is real, and we would be so much better if we could get past this trench line. Like, I'm in bronze, but because everyone else is in bronze and no one plays the game the way it should be played, if I can get out of there because I play the game I should be played, I'm easily masters.
MMR,
and it's like, no, dude, you're one base planetary. Like, stop.
Yes, yeah. They call it ELO hell, right? Which
yeah.
Which I think some companies have said, like, basically they haven't said it outright, like ELO hell exists, but I think there is some data to confirm that there is that time where you might like individually be based like higher, but it's so hard in team games.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not like I am in bronze, but I'm actually a master's level player because
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You might be a silver level player, and it sucks you don't get that silver border, but fix your TVT, right? It'll be good.
Don't leave every TVT, please. Thank you.
That would probably help your MMR. Maybe, unless you're really bad at TVT. All right. Any other
the algorithm.
Questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, the algorithm wants you to be at 50%. So yeah.
Yes, my YouTube has this. It'll be up tomorrow, hopefully. With chapters. What role do you think camgirl sites and growth and popularity has played in people's expectations to pay for content? Oof, that's a
whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's a big one. Maybe I don't know, maybe save it for next time if we have everyone here. That's because the whole like because the direction that I was gonna go when I said we had to move on was I was gonna bring up tipping culture. And I again, I think Roddy was the one who brought this up, and I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Where Americans are expected to tip, so they often are better at giving money. So you stream in North American hours, you usually get more of the money, especially if you do call outs, call to actions, than if you stream in the European time zone.
Yeah, less viewers, more money. It's interesting.
Yeah. Roddy also thinks that Europeans in general are a little less likely to spend money, and I don't know how true that is, but certainly tipping, very different expectations. Let's see here. Dodge all the time. Opinions about ESL owned by the Saudis. I know their sports have problems with that. Actually, not Dodge at all. Our last talk show directly addressed Saudi Arabia's tournaments, Gamers 8, as well as the fact that ESL owns them. And the TLDR is that, what did you say, Beomulf? No ethical consumption under capitalism?
Yeah, I mean, someone's gonna do it. Might as well be someone who you think's might as well be us who, or it might as well be you who at least is gonna do it responsibly.
We don't like it, but like I don't know what else you expect people to do nowadays.
Yeah. We live in a single TO. We live in a single TO monopoly.
Yeah. Yes. That. Yeah. Is it ethical for low-level players to register for the ESL weeklies, or a complete waste of time for pro players? Oh, it's completely. It's totally fine. They get bopped so fast that it usually doesn't really impact single elimination. It usually impacts double elimination because they take a lot longer to like beat each other, and then go through the processes like reporting to admins, and sticking around in due time. Players are just they're going. So absolutely, I would say it's actually important to encourage low-level players to participate whenever possible to continue just having fun, being competitive. Go ahead.
And honestly, and sometimes the pros are nice too. They like, yeah, I'll play standard against you, and then they bop you game too. But like, it's a good warm up for them. You get to play. There really is no downside.
Gauntlet Wizard had a question in form of a $5 donation. Thank you. As a service worker who depends on tips, do you tip well at restaurants? I'm 20% every single time, basically, because it's easier to math out than 15%. So.
How do you feel then about the receipts that give you the 15, 18, 20% like just on the receipt calculated for you?
That's a good question. Usually I just round up either way, so I don't have to do the addition. Unless they also give me the total. In that case, I do choose 18%. Which I did recently, actually.
There's the whole problem of like lunch counters. Do you tip that or not? Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. Yeah,
exactly. Again, going back to this idea of like the whole oversaturation of tipping and advertising and is not helping anyone. Let's see here. What do you think about matchup-specific MMR then? So this has actually been discussed with Blizzard. I do not recall the reason they don't want to do it. I think one of the reasons is that people are already so sad and anxious about their MMR. They didn't want them to have 3 MMRs to be anxious about, I think is one of the reasons. Ladder anxiety is absolutely a real problem that Blizzard was trying to tackle. And Stormgate's going to try and tackle even harder.
That's you know what? That's a really good argument. When you say it, it's kind of hilarious, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people that only ladder unranked because it doesn't have a number attached, even if it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. I don't, I have to click through 2 or 3 buttons to see if my TVT is at 0%,
Yeah.
It doesn't get shown to me. Anything else? What did Ragnarok Cat link? I'm plat 3 micros masters rather easily.
Thanks, Hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Do I see anything else? Do you plan to cast a Stormgate tournament if there's an opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's going to say yes to that.
That is literally why, at least for me, that's literally why Stormgate Nexus exists. Like it's to get it. It's the vector in.
If the game is even the game would have to be truly terrible not to get pick up a game, a job for that game.
Or like if there are no tournaments or something. Like there's no opportunity, so you're not casting it. I guess.
Yeah. I think I got the questions. I'm sorry if someone did give a question, and type it quickly or forever hold your peace. Europe pay wait staff. I know, it's very sad.
What about not having MMR loss from losses, but only gaining MMR from wins?
Sarah at like 20,000 MMR.
Inflation.
He paid but didn't tip. Did he expect you to tip, or he just doesn't tip? That's unfortunately that is a dick move in America. Well, those bitch Canadians, like I went to Canada for the first time in 2013, and they were very clear. They're like, you don't have to tip in Canada. And I was like, oh, okay. And we all went out to dinner. And you know what everyone did? They tipped. And I was like, I thought you didn't have to tip. And they were like, well, if they give you service. I'm like,
it's like
you don't like legally have to. And I'm like, that's the same thing in America.
It's like the meme of the Germans that come over to America and they're like, we're morally opposed to tipping, so we're not going to tip. And it's like, well, I need to pay rent.
Yeah, you just fuck someone over. No, it's not a U.S. thing. Absolutely, Canada's to blame for that shit. Or not to blame, sorry. America is to blame. I'll admit that. But Canada absolutely does it.
The question is, does like the amount of tipping expectation change as you go further and further from the U.S. border? I have no idea. That's just...
I don't know. Maybe Toronto has the highest tipping.
I mean, Toronto's stupid expensive, so probably.
Yeah. Just answer a few questions on the tablet. Last words for convenience store. Ask for tip on a bottle of water. Yeah, paid that shit.
Oof.
Hate it. When is Stormgate beta? We don't even know the answer to that.
I kind of. We know that the closed alpha, like very small, friends and family, content creators, or whatever, is going to be sometime like middle of this year. That's what they've been consistently saying, and that it will open up somewhere towards the end of the year, early next year, to be more people. But it's going to be a tiered system, and there will never be a open beta. At least that's what they've said as of this point.
Oh, there you go. I assumed ladder anxiety meant like long queue times. No, just literally people having anxiety about losing MMR. Which I used to have a lot of.
And now I have less of. Actually, I don't know what my MMR is right now. I'm not ranked.
I don't pay attention to my numbers anymore, but I do still love my my portrait, my border.
You know what makes me really sad? The first time I hit Masters, it was during ladder lock. So I just hit Masters MMR, and then the next season happened, and I just sorted it into Masters, and I never got like the nice shiny "You've hit Masters, congratulations."
Aw.
Like I never got it. It makes me very sad. CG. I
screen capped it and told my mom.
Like, unironically, I got it, and I'm like, I can cast StarCraft now because like I'm of a level where it's okay.
The second T in Toronto is silent. No, it's not.
Is that Toronto? I mean, I guess the accent, right?
That's like saying Maryland is pronounced Merlin because a bunch of Marylanders are stupid.
Baltimore?
There you go. I refuse. Thank you. It's Toronto.
Actually, and we're really going off. I had lunch with a woman from Lebanon yesterday, and I live in West Lebanon, New Hampshire. and it was getting me. I'm like, yeah, she was from like what? She's an author. It was really cool lunch, but she was like talking about. I'm like, yeah, what's back in Lebanon, and I'm like, wait a minute, regionalism's got me.
Yeah. I once had the I don't know, the anecdote given to me of a woman who went to the Dulles airport and thought it was the Dallas airport. I literally was standing next to her as she was like on the phone with someone asking where they are. Yeah, completely different state, guys. Completely different.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. All right. I think I went through all the questions. We are very excited about Stormgate in general. We'll probably save Stormgate questions for a Stormgate specific talk show. Because I think that it'll probably be an entire episode at some point of all of us talking about Stormgate, because I think there's a lot of good conversation about like whys and hows and what ifs that doesn't necessarily, rely on actually knowing anything about the game. But then obviously we can only go so far without having the game.
And I think we're gonna get a pretty significant amount of information. I'm not gonna say sooner rather than later, but before the end of the year, certainly.
Yeah.
Probably right around the same time that I don't know when they do the beta or whatever. So that's probably a good time to do it when there is a bunch of new stuff to chew on all of a sudden.
Yes, I think we'll get information by the summer, because they were saying more information and stuff by this time, basically 2023. So
yeah, actually, I think no, never mind. I'm not going to say that. We're good.
All right, I think that's it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and for all the donations and stuff as well. I guess I'll shout them out with Beomulf here. Gauntlet Wizard, $5. Who call in the fleets for 5 gifted subs. Shitzerg for 300. Here's my attempt at stimulating the esports economy. SE2 Sephiron for the raid. Dave Testa for the 8 months. I bet you'd beat Steadfast in Scrabble. I think I would. Ragnar Arquette for 45 months. Proud member of local Seamsters Union, 420. Thanks, man. Shitzerg, 8 months. Dan, these ads get in the way of this most pleasant talk show. It's funny, that was before we started talking about ads. And Steadfast for 30 months. RTS time. Alrighty, Roo. That does it. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be back at some point in the future. Unfortunately, we can't really set a date because regionals will be starting up, and I'll be moving, and then who knows what else is going to happen. So we'll let you know. I do try and let you guys know in advance, but it can be tough. So as I said, it'll be up on YouTube with chapter markers, hopefully by tomorrow. I am moving states, basically moving cross country. It's going to be super fun.
You were solid, and now you're a liquid.
Yeah. Yes. Hopefully I'm never a gas.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Isn't our job to be full of hot air?
Ha ha. That's a good one. All right. And now, I guess we'll see you guys later. I will see you guys Monday. Tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, I am casting Gamers Without Borders. So, bye, everyone. Bye. Thanks, Beomulf, for being on the cast. Make sure to follow him on Twitter and Twitch. Bye.
Woo. Bye.
Is there an ending? There is. Okay. Bye.